Hey, welcome everyone to the Sketch Zone podcast. It's Carlos, and I'm talking really fast because I can't wait to get to talk to this guy. You guys, here, I'm just gonna say this. Wait, I'm gonna say this. We're gonna start from the bottom of the list, right? Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Trail Mix Up, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas. Has anyone ever heard of any of these? Anyone?
Nah,
Anyone?
doesn't
I've
doesn't
never
sound
heard of
familiar.
Pinocchio,
no.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, Mulan, Tarzan. Dude, you literally animated my childhood. Granted, we're probably roughly about the same age.
Your college years.
Yeah.
In dog years?
Yeah. You guys, please welcome to the show,
Guys.
Travis Blaise.
Yes.
Wow, get a clap and all that stuff.
We've got a real
Yeah,
audience.
we
They're
rented
listening.
we rented an audience just for you.
That's amazing.
They're socially distanced, of course. Yeah.
Of course.
That's right. 6 feet apart.
Yes.
We're more like, let's see here. Where are you located?
I'm in LA.
Jack is in LA. I'm just north of San Francisco. And then we're
So,
just going to keep
we're-
going right on up because you're in
Yeah,
Seattle, aren't you?
we just take the 5.
Uh-oh. Internet hasn't quite reached Seattle yet.
No, it hasn't. It's slow.
There it goes.
So,
It's
yeah.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. No, this is great. This is awesome. I get to talk to you guys.
I know, geek out.
It's weird when you correspond with someone you've never actually met, and you've literally met through the internet and messaging. So you see faces,
Yeah.
you kind of correspond them a little. I know I creeped on you a little bit, and so I looked at your YouTube, and all of it's great. Your Calipeg was awesome. Your tutorial on the Calipeg, like your first run of it, was
Yeah.
pretty great. Like, hey, I didn't know that. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So, yes.
We're gonna get to Calipeg, but I know Jack is super excited to talk about that too. But so let's welcome to the show Jack Casper, Zach.
Hello.
Oh.
I know you don't need to clap for me.
So, anyone and everyone that's in the chat room, long arm, welcome. Jean-Luc Canas, I'm assuming that's your name. Sleepy Roz, Landon, what's up, buddy? Who else did I see in here? Gabriel, what's
Williams.
up? Welcome back. Ashish. And Elizabeth. Elizabeth, a young up-and-coming award-winning animator in her own right.
That's awesome. Oh, and Jean, by the way, was the guy that did all those little voices over my dialogue test that I did.
Oh,
During
cool.
that live stream, and he did all these operatic, really funny voices, and I posted it. So that was Jean.
Good job, Jan. So, I don't think that there is anything new that happened this week. I think maybe, hey, Charlie's here. Woo woo, Scribbler 80. Yeah, everyone's coming out today. Charlie, just so you guys know, Charlie is usually in the panel with us. He's our Chicago branch, I guess.
He's from Chicago.
Yeah. All of us are,
love
well, Jack is
Chicago.
originally from Wisconsin area. Charlie's from Indiana. I'm originally from Chicago, and we all met in Chicago at art school. And then we all
Let me
just
guess.
kind of went our own separate ways until
Did you go to
we didn't.
Columbus?
Hmm?
Did you go to Columbus School?
No,
No,
we went to the now defunct Art Institute.
Yeah, you know how they talk about forgiving student loans for those predatory schools?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
Our
didn't get
school
that.
may or may not have been on that list.
I didn't get forgiven.
I didn't either, and I will be definitely upset. No, I won't. No, I won't. I mean, I'll feel a little ripped off. Like, why was I, what is it, responsible enough to pay my school bills? I could have just sat on them and waited for Corona to hit.
perfect timing. Ironically, right?
All right, crazy. I guess that's a really good place to start. I'm sitting virtually next to, two, uh, I'm just going to say it, very successful animators slash creative folks that are still pretty well ingrained in studio life. How has the coronavirus affected your work schedule, the process, the flow? Has it affected you guys much at all?
Uh, I don't know if should I start.
Yeah, go
Yeah, go
ahead.
for it.
It really hasn't affected me a whole lot, just simply because I was working in LA for 8 to 10 years before I decided to kind of leave and kind of branch off into Seattle. So I've been working remotely for 4 years already,
Nice.
not knowing if I would have work. But thankfully, I've been completely busy ever since I left, and the work's never stopped. So I've had time to kind of work out my workflow and my schedule, and working remotely and getting, teleconferencing and having my meetings and that kind of stuff, and getting people used to or comfortable with the idea that I work remotely. So for me, the adjustment hasn't there's been no transition other than the fact that things are a lot quieter these days.
They are.
I mean,
Seems to be.
like, typically you get, hey, I got this job, you want to do this and this, and things are kind of like quiet. Yeah. It's that's a little, I guess that could be a little unnerving.
Yeah, sometimes quiet is not always good news.
Now, do you guys, both of you, do the two of you work from home, or do you actually, before all the corona, were you guys actually going into work and have a studio job and in-house?
I was going to a studio. I'm still working with the studio, but now I am work from home. But I had the standard 9 to 6
Right.
setup. Yeah.
And I have my own creative company. I did a lot of work in LA and Chicago, but it was more multimedia work, some animation work. And then eventually I moved up to Northern California, and I'm doing a lot of motion graphics and character design stuff, animation, stuff like that. So I've been working from home for the past. Well, I did a lot of work in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, but that was a mixture between design work and actual programming, and even some like business development stuff for startup companies. And I was like, well, if I'm doing that for those guys, I might as well do it for myself. And so I did. And yeah, and it was a little tough at first, but now that I've figured a lot of this stuff out and paid for the long-term memberships to all these damn software companies. Yeah, got everything all figured out now. So yeah.
So how's it been going outside of that 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job for you and going to working in-house now? Has it been an adjustment?
For me or for Jack? Oh, for Jack.
Yeah, no, for Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been an adjustment. Being home pretty much all day is not something I have been used to. But surprisingly, we've been able to keep pretty much on track. I mean, the productions have more or less they've gone all gone remote, more or less trying to stay on schedule, at least the last news I heard. I think that expectation is changing, week by week. But so far, it's surprising how well the animation industry or this animation pipeline and system still kind of works with everybody being remote. Granted, we're on the show I'm on kind of the tail end, so we're kind of ramping down anyway. If we were in the thick of it, I don't know that it would be as easy.
So I don't know what studio you're working for, Jack.
Currently, I'm at DreamWorks. I'm in the television department right now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know Tom Caulfield?
I know of him. I don't know
Yeah.
personally. Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine that works over there. It's just I have a lot of friends that have worked all over the place. They're all spread out everywhere.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
kind of
very
weird.
small industry, and everybody kind of crosses paths at some point.
And it's funny to see how everyone is, especially like on Facebook and seeing like some of my friends that are directing, like they're directing from their hot tub. I'm like, really, you got to throw that out at me. Like I'm seeing pictures of like, okay, I'm reading a script. So thanks, Nathan Greno. And I'm like, okay, so this is how we work remotely from home. Nice.
Yeah, and we have Scribbler80, who is a freelance illustrator in the Chicago area, and he said in the chat, "I feel guilty when I'm asked about the virus affecting his life." He said, "I know." I know I'm one of the few that have been unaffected by it. I'm fortunate. And I mean, if anything, that's great news. Like all we ever
Yeah.
hear about are the people that are getting affected negatively. And I have been lucky enough to be one of the people that's actually thriving, believe it or not. I don't know why, but I'm busier now than when everyone was running around being healthy. So not really sure. Like I feel bad. Like I'm one of the few Cubans that can thank God for Fidel happening. Like the Castro brothers took over. My dad and his family decided to leave Cuba, and I happened in Chicago, so I win. Like sorry guys, but
Opportunity.
I mean,
Out.
literally won the lottery of a lifetime. That one.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like for the most part, all of us in our industry have a lot to be thankful for at the moment, just because our industry is still, at least we have the ability to work remotely. It's not like, I mean, it's always nice to have an in-house pipeline that we've had for years, but we do have that ability now to work remotely, and it's not like we have to shut things down now, with the exception of like my buddies that are in live action.
Yeah,
that's been a big change for them. I've got a lot of friends that are directing and writing, and then also camera and behind the scenes in terms of cinematography and stuff, and they're sitting at home. So it's kind of weird for them not to be able to have everything on hold because they have to have that social distancing. Yeah. Where we can do literally what we're doing now is what we would be doing during 9 to 6. We have our meeting.
Part of the job description.
Yeah, we share our screen. Hey, I got this. What do you think of this? And that's been the beauty of the production that I was on, because I was already working remotely. It's super easy for us to, like, the art department, there's like 5 of us, and we'd have our meeting where it'd just be the 5 of us, and I'd say, hey, I'm struggling with this anatomy or this design of this dog. Can you help me out? And I'd do the drawing and I'd share it, and they'd go, yeah, let me try that. And then also just be this round robin of like, screen grabbing or downloading it and then drawing over it, and then it comes to the next person, they draw over it, and it comes back to you. I'm like, this is great. It's like I felt like you feel like you're a kid, but it's professional work, and it's like it's actually, in a lot of ways, I feel like it's more efficient when you have that collaboration going, especially in the art department when you're character designing. Because this particular production, I was I was wearing like 3 hats. I was character designing, I was storyboarding first, and then character designing, then doing some test animation for their rigs before they go to 3D, because I'm a traditional animator, and then going back to story. So I'm literally on my last sequence for this film before I'm off of it completely. But it's been really cool to kind of work remotely and work with the team, and then work on all of these different facets of the production. So yeah.
How much of I was trying to catch up with the chat. Like Kin Cha Cha says, "Hi Travis. Yes, I'm watching you on the big TV."
That is my partner in crime. She's she's the one that is sitting in the other room right now behind this wall on the big screen, apparently watching us.
Hey, I didn't know that this could be on the big screen. Look at us.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
right.
And her
YouTube.
kids are there probably throwing popcorn at the screen too.
So let's go all the way back to where baby Travis was trying to figure out what he wanted to do for a living.
Baby.
Okay, well, not baby Travis. I'm gonna work on Aladdin.
Yeah, could you imagine? Mother, I think I'm ready for Aladdin.
Mother.
Did you always know that you wanted to be an animator?
No. I mean, the short end of that is like neither myself nor my brother ever thought that animation would be a place that we would have a job. You know, I grew up with. For me, I was born in Vermont, and then at an early age, I was sent off to Florida with my mom after my parents split up. So
sorry about that. Not to split up the Florida part.
Well, no, I mean it's not bad. Like I spent a lot of. I mean, even Aaron now he has since moved back and he loves it. And you know, I spent my first 30 some odd years there. And then I left. Well, 30 up until when I was like 34, and then I left. But so at an early age, you know, we grew up as kind of like those, I don't know, 70s and latchkey kids, and we can kind of do whatever we want. But in the summers and during the year, like when I was first with my father, when I was, I think like 7, before we moved to Florida, we were always drawing as little kids. I mean, that was just like, I distinctly remember my stepmother still has these pictures. She has a picture of mine that looks, you know, of these fish jumping out of the water. And it was like 6 or 7 years old. And they look like little sperm jumping through the water, right? Really flat, really generic. And then there's my brothers. And it's like he's 9 years old and he's got 3-point perspective down. He's drawing this duck in these reeds of water.
Yeah.
And it was just like, she has these framed next to one another.
Yeah.
And it's nice to look at because it's very indicative to how we were growing up.
That's
but
hilarious.
we were always in nature. My dad was a musician. My mother was kind of an artsy person, artist. They were kind of just poor hippies, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't, you know. So I grew up around music and working with your hands. And my dad was a master carpenter, and my stepfather was he was an interior designer, and he ended up, you know, he's also a carpenter as well. So Aaron and I grew up sort of around this sort of a mix of Southern Americana to Northern hillbilly kind of, you know, Vermonters. And we, you know, grew up mostly in Florida during the year. And then the summers we'd always spend up in Vermont. So we were always around art, and we were always allowed to kind of like nurture what we wanted to do with art. So it was never a hindrance. It was like, you know, art's a nice hobby, but you need to get a real job or get a real education. It was always like, oh no, just keep doing what you're doing. Because I think we were all just figuring it out. Even my parents were still figuring themselves out as we were growing up. So it wasn't until Aaron, honestly, and I always refer back to my brother because it was him that sort of inspired me to kind of go into animation, because he was the first one to get this internship with Disney. And when he got the internship with Disney, I was still in high school. He was first year in college. And I used to go up to college every year. Now, mind you, my high school life was pretty much girls wrestling.
Wrestling, you know, wrestling girls.
Art kind of took the background, but I was always drawing, but it was never a focus for me. I was just living life.
Right.
And then I used to go up. I remember this because my brother used to sneak me into figure drawing because I was 16, 17 years old. My brother was, you know, going to new model classes and stuff. And so he'd sneak me in so I could sit there and sketch with him. So it was great. I had my early on college experience before actually going to college. Yeah. And then he got the internship. And then he spent 7 weeks in LA. And mind you, we went to a place called Ringling School of Art and Design.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this was for me. I graduated in '88, and Aaron graduated from college in '90. So it was during those 2 years where we kind of overlapped, where he got his internship. He comes back and he has this 3/4 inch deck, this reel, 3/4 inch reel, so you had to find a 3/4 inch deck to put it in, but he transferred it to a VHS tape, and it was this final project of this gorilla animated, and it was just the coolest thing to see that, and at the time we didn't know who Glenn Keane was. Like I think in a lot of ways it was good that we didn't know all of these superstars in animation. Yeah. We were just artists that wanted to draw and make money doing that. Yeah. And he saw that. When I saw him do that, I was like, wow. And then he told me who mentored him. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. And I had no idea that Glenn Keane. I know who he is now, of course. Sure. But working alongside of him remotely and seeing, being in the same time, the same era as a giant like that, growing up as an animator, was very inspiring to kind of like be inducted into that. So, so it was my brother that started kind of the whole, and it was literally me going, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Yeah. It was like that for me. Yeah. Yeah. Because at one point I actually quit art school.
What?
That's a story that nobody really knows about. Like, I literally took almost a year off from art school because I was like, screw this. Yeah. Everyone, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for my brother? Who am I doing this for? And so when I left, I was just like, oh, I know why I want to do this now, because I need a job. Yeah. So I eventually, saw the light and came back to art school and finished it and got my internship with Disney. So, but I would say for that moment, neither Aaron and I really knew animation. I mean, we all grew up on cartoons, right? Looney Tunes, right? Those are my favorite. Like watching Bugs Bunny and the Coyote and Roadrunner. All of those were kind of like my favorites. The Justice League, the '80s cartoons, Barbarian, all of those things growing up. But it wasn't until that moment that I saw Aaron's animation move. Right. It made me really think, oh, wow, there's an opportunity here.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that because that's something that you and I both have in common. We have an older brother that I love my older brother to death.
There's a pause.
I love my older brother to death, but he was always just naturally the person that I was always competing with. And if he threw a baseball, I needed to throw it farther. If he rode a bike, I needed to ride mine faster. If he drew a picture, I had to draw a picture better. And we would draw the same picture. And this is, we grew up roughly in the same, I think you might be like 1 or 2 years older than me, but,
I'll be 50 in a couple of weeks.
I'm 48. And I'm 48 in a couple months, but yeah, like my mom had the refrigerator absolutely covered with all those puffy stickers, if you remember.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we would pick a sticker and draw it. And then we would go to school the next day and have people put little sticks on the picture that they thought was better than the other one. And the day that I won, I was like, that's it. It's a wrap. You're going to lose from now on.
That's so funny. Well, I was going to ask you, but you kind of answered that question. Is like, who is competing with who? Because it was an internal competition for me, being in that shadow. Yeah. But the person casting the shadow doesn't typically realize they're doing it. Right. It's that little brother syndrome. It's the whole kind of thing where it's like, and so like I was competitive in a certain degree because I felt like I had to prove myself all the time. And I still get spurts of that every now and again, but not really. As an adult now, I've kind of grown out of it about a year ago.
So it does eventually happen. Okay, good.
You're always going to have your dynamics, right? It's family. I don't know, Jack, if you have brothers in the industry or sisters or
I don't. I actually lost my brother at a fairly young age, so I didn't really have that experience. But I do think that perhaps that residual was perhaps part of what pushed me to go, is because it was kind of like I didn't, I had that competitive brother, and then it sort of all just disappeared, and then I was like, well, shit, I got to figure out what I'm doing, like, because like when the rug is pulled from under you, you're sort of forced to figure out, you don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is you guys are talking about having this like metric stick to like measure yourself to, and then when all of a sudden that kind of disappears, you're like doubly forced to, like prove yourself in a way, right? Because you're like, I don't even have a stick anymore, so it's like I'm super lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine to have that loss. I don't know how old you were at that time, but
yeah, I was 19. I think was second year. Yeah, second year of college.
Yeah.
Second year of college. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have our experiences and our life stories to kind of tell that kind of molds us into who we are as adults. Some good, some bad, and it's adversities and things like that kind of make us better, stronger.
For sure.
Make us work harder.
Right.
The one thing with Aaron and I would say, and probably out of all of that competition with you, Carlos, is probably like strong work ethic was a very number one thing. Mm-hmm. Like him and I, if there's one thing that Aaron and I, besides being artists and also being in animation, and we're miles different from one another personality wise, but we both grew up with a really strong work ethic. And I think that's what's kind of carried us into our own paths in the industry. Because of that, we've been able to continually do what we do and succeed through that perseverance, just sheer perseverance of just working hard.
Yeah.
Have you guys? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. We're probably going to ask the same question. Have you guys actually worked on a professional project together?
Oh, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, Aaron was my boss.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Which only made everything worse.
No, it's weird because it's like, as I start getting more and more into social media online, and I'm starting to kind of like, again, Aaron started doing this like 8 years ago, and I'm just now starting to do it because he's been encouraging me to kind of start my own business and start Sketch to Animate. And when I started kind of getting out there into the world, people had no idea that I even existed, which is fine. But it was sometimes Aaron and I would both get these comments like they'd see Aaron Blaise and Travis Blaise, and they go, "Oh, do you know Aaron?" And I go, "Yeah, he's my brother." And then they're like, "What?" Or they're like, "Oh," and they don't get that, like, not only did Aaron was my boss for probably, even in the beginning of working at Disney, my summer job, after my internship in 90, I got a summer job working on Beauty and the Beast. That was the first project, was Beauty and the Beast. So I was 20 at the time, or just turning 21, and I had just done a second internship with Disney, and they asked me to come back because I was working in Sarasota, or going to school in Sarasota. So I was only 2 hours away from the Orlando studio. So they said, "Hey, we're working on Beauty and the Beast. Do you want to come here and work as a cleanup artist for the summer?" I'm like, "Okay." Like, yeah, I do. So I worked on Aaron's crew then. I didn't work with him directly. So, they had the rough animator team and then their cleanup crew. So I worked under a guy named Tracy Lee, and also the head of cleanup, which is Ruben Procopio, who is an amazing sculptor and amazing artist. And I learned a lot under him. Drove everybody up the wall just because of that young kind of like ADHD kid in cleanup and summer job and still in college, and here these guys are working on this professional job. And so when I started with Disney full time, right after I left school, I immediately had gotten a job offer to work on Aladdin. I worked I didn't work under him immediately then. It wasn't until I got onto like Trail Mix Up that I was part of his crew. For Trail Mix Up, the Roger Rabbit short, I was cleaning up in his crew. And then then I eventually went into animation, and for a while there, I became an animator during Pocahontas, an actual animator, and then that was when Aaron had moved on to going into working on Mulan, and I never worked under him. And the next time I worked under him, and mind you, we were in the same studio together, so we were in the same studio environment. We see each other every day.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he started directing Brother Bear that he became my director.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on Koda under Alex Cooperschmidt, who was the supervisor of that. And that's when it's kind of funny because, and Aaron and I will tell these stories. It's like, there's the Bancrofts, Tony and Tom Bancroft.
Mm-hmm.
They worked with us there. We had like Dean Dubois, who's now, Dean's directed How to Train Your Dragon. So Dean was there, and so Armand and Kevin Dieters, and we had Paul Briggs, who's now directing the new Disney movie that's coming out, The Last Dragon. All of these, Nathan Greno, who's over at Skydance now, he did Tangled with Byron, and all these guys were all in the same together. We were all working on the same projects. Byron was working under Aaron, and then he ended up supervising Kenai Bear for Brother Bear. So Aaron being my boss was awesome, but it was also toxic sometimes. not in a bad way. It's just that, because we grew up in a studio environment like no other. Like the Florida studio was no studio I've ever worked for before, past, present, or future. It's like that project, that studio was the birth. That's where I was raised. Right, it was my first studio, 15 years, and the good, the bad, through marriages, through death, through babies and grandkids, and all these. We all grew up together in this environment, and so sitting in a room when you're issuing a scene and you don't agree with maybe an opinion that your brother might have, I might open my mouth and say I don't agree with you, and then there might be a little bit of argument. There's at one point there were stories Aaron and I would argue in the room, and it would be Bob Walker, who, rest in peace, Bob, who was the co-director, and Chuck Williams, and then Aaron and me, and then they'd issue a scene and we'd have this argument. All of a sudden it would just be like Aaron and I just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you look over and Bob and Chuck are just kind of sitting there like shaking their heads because we went into brother mode and we went completely unprofessional. But it was okay because we were that comfortable around each other to have that dynamic, but at the same time we had a job to do. So
those other guys were sitting there thinking, we're going to call your parents.
Oh my God. I was like, you're going in that corner, you go in that corner. It wasn't always like that, but there's always been that, like, when you get into a fight with your brother, you forget sometimes where you are.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You ever get in those moments where you just like right at each other?
Oh, yeah.
And you don't care who's in the room. And once it's over, you realize, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
My last one was we were in the middle of the Santa Monica promenade, and my brother came at me the wrong way. I was like, bro, you can't talk to me like that no more. We don't got it like that no more. I'm like, I'm big now. Hey, and let me explain to you how I understand where you're coming from and how I got your back. Even before I met you, I got your back.
Thank you.
So Sketch Zone has its own Discord channel, and I said, hey guys, this is Calipeg, this is Travis, here's his website, go in, and Landon was helping share some information on it too. And then this conversation started happening around Travis Blaise. And they're like, ooh, is that Aaron's brother? I'm like, no, that's Travis.
Wow. Thank you.
I understand. I got you.
No, I literally had, and I told my students to watch this if they get an opportunity to. And one of my students, the very first, when you show them, hey, I'm so and so, this is my work, and you got to show them your reel, and then they go, she goes, you're Aaron's brother, and I go, yeah, and she goes, well, why aren't you famous?
Oh, Lord.
And I looked at her and I go, because I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Then I came down and it went out. But it was just like, oh, like she saw all the things that I did, and she's like, well, why aren't you famous? I said, and for the most part, we have the best job, right? We don't have to be in the limelight. We don't have to be famous, but we get to work on famous films and remarkable things that impact lives and generations of people,
right,
which is amazing. And we don't have to, it's really cool for your family members to see your name in the credits and roll down and get those accolades. But I think it's even cooler when you can work with really amazing people and have an experience that is only for you, right?
Right.
Like I'm always going to look back at those times and have so many fond memories, and know that those moments throughout all of this is what brought me to this moment now. But and so I appreciate you giving me having my back, because I've gotten, and I'm sure like with you, I've gotten so used to it now, because let's face it, Aaron is well known, and the make it even funnier, Aaron and I have been toasting. We since this whole coronavirus thing, we call each other up. I make my old fashioned because I love whiskey.
Because you're a gentleman, that's why.
And he has his vodka and cranberry. We do our little ching.
Nice.
And then we start listening to the music, and he goes, oh, hey, check this out. He says, hey Alexa, who's Aaron Blaise?
Jeez.
Can I cuss? Am I allowed to cuss or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I shit you not. Alexa goes, Aaron Blaise, creator of Art of Aaron Blaise, has 14 million, blah, 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 has 365 squares, and since 2006 has had 14,773,000 hits or something on his channel. And it's like, it goes through all of these accolades. And he's like, I go, okay. And I go, hey, Alexa. And I'm through his phone. So he puts the phone up to Alexa. And he's like, I go, hey, who's Travis Blaise? And it goes, Travis Blaise, Animator. And I was like, that's it. I won. I still got it.
It knows you.
Alexa knew who I was.
Yeah, because she could have been like, I don't know that one.
Like there was a pause. He goes, Travis Blaise, Animator. And then goes back to playing music. I love it. It was so funny, because that in a nutshell has sort of been the difference, like from the outside people see,
right,
his accomplishments, my accomplishments. I mean, we all have our accomplishments.
Sure.
But I'm so proud of what my brother's done, and proud of being a part of this family that has, so it's cool. And we joke all the time, which is nice. I'm glad that I have a good relationship with him now, rather than not talk to him.
Exactly. And that's, there's times where you hear of people not really getting along with their siblings, and I'm glad. You have no idea how happy I am that does not compute in my brain. Like, I love all of my siblings. It's just one of those things where I probably even take our relationship for granted, because I can call any one of them right now and just be on the phone for hours. And it's just really cool to see that the competition of the animation industry never really deteriorated your relationship with Aaron.
No, I mean, there was a time when we didn't talk. because we're so very different people. And you know, you have your moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will always have my brother's back no matter what. It's we have gone through so much in our childhood, getting to this point where we are now, that, you know, that only him and I have experienced and will only experience, and have that with us, that we've always got each other's back. When push comes to shove, even if we get in an argument, we don't talk to each other, it doesn't matter.
He's like, you yelled at me at the studio in front of those guys.
But Aaron, you know, Aaron's also been a really big supporter of what I'm trying to do with Sketch to Animate.
Speaking of
and
which,
it's always nice. I go, hey man, do you mind? Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, speaking of which, I have it up. You guys on Skype, we're not going to see it, but I'm going to put it up for people on YouTube to see.
Well, you know, it's funny because Aaron, the great thing about having a brother like Aaron is he supports what I do and I support what he does. But every time he does a plug, or his partner Nick Birch, who's amazing, every time they do a little plug for me on their their Monday or Friday streams, I always end up getting like 20 or 30, 40, 50 extra people coming to my website, which is great.
Oh,
you know,
tonight you're gonna get a passionate 2.
Well, you know, it doesn't. I'm not just having fun. I just, you know, having the social distancing. Like, even though I work remotely, it's really nice to be able to talk to people like you.
Yeah,
it's like people. We can sit here and just talk, which is nice.
Stuck in your bubble too long.
Oh my God! Though even my buddies that I am friends with locally, you know, we finally had to do the social distancing thing, and we're like, oh man, because you know, I'd have my Friday whiskey get-togethers. We can't do that now, so it's and now that the show's ending that I'm on, you know, I don't have any really other than this is great. Can I be your friend? You know,
yes, please.
Don't hang up. No, don't.
That's so wonderful.
Awkward.
So how did you start Sketch to Animate? Was that, I know you said earlier that you kind of got inspired by Aaron, but like what made you want to come up, do the what it is, and where are you aiming it to go?
So the you know, 4 years ago when I decided to kind of leave LA, it was I met Chocho, who's Kin, who you saw that said hello, I'm watching on the big screen. Her and I met through a mutual friend of mine who I worked with at Disney for years, and he lives up here. So when we met, I said, you know, I feel like I'm ready to make this move and make this commitment and come up to Seattle, because I've been visiting Seattle forever. And so when I did that, my first goal was leave the studio, but don't leave the studio. Leave the studio environment and work on my own, which was a big risk because I had money saved. And I said, okay, I'm going to take a couple of months off and just kind of do my own thing. It was the first time that I was single, well, kind of single-ish. And it was the first time that my kids were, my kids were grown up. You know, they're adults now. I don't have to worry about them. I was free to kind of, this is pre-Chocho, so this is like me going up to Seattle, and then I went up to Seattle and I did my own thing. I was great, and then I met her, and when I came back, I said, you know, I think I want to make this move. I said, but the only way I can make this move, this transition, is if I have a job that allows me to work anywhere. And I told Chocho this. It literally happened. We had the conversation like at 10 o'clock the night before. The next morning, I get an email from a producer in Australia. He says, hey, I'm working on this Netflix show. I need a storyboard artist. You can work wherever you want. You want to start? And I was just like, yes, I do. I literally said, guess what? I'm moving to Seattle. And it was literally like that. When I make a decision, I kind of just do it and I go. And so I made it, and I never looked back. So I got that first wave, which was work independently, get the job, get the workflow going so you can feel comfortable, and then pick and choose the jobs that you want to work on. The second thing was I always wanted to work for myself, meaning do the things that I want to do, the way I want to do it, how I want to do that. And of course, I'm still continually working in the industry now, but it would be nice to be able to do this independently. So I watched my brother kind of grow from his from where he started, because Aaron and I were working together again down in Port St. Lucie during a studio called Digital Domain, and he was working on Legend of Tembo, and we were developing projects there. And after that studio started and then fell apart, that's when everyone started kind of making life decisions. And I moved to LA and spent the next 4 or 5 years there. But he went on to doing what he's doing now, which is 8 years later, he's got this huge thing. So I wanted to do something. I've always wanted to do something similar. And Aaron really encouraged me. He says, man, it's great to be able to get up every day and say, I want to draw bears. And this is what I'm going to do. And here's a tutorial on how to draw bears. And this is why you should buy it. And, you know, he's built something literally from the ground up. Like, I watched it from the ground up. And I said, you know what? I need to make that same thing. So Sketch to Animate came out of like, well, what does Travis want to do with him? What does Travis represent? And to me, it was like, I really didn't start falling in love with animation. I mean, I fell in love with animation the moment I started moving the pencil around. But when I got into story, which was much later in my career, that's when I was like, wow, story. Because everything went to computers. And I said, hey, I have to figure out, how am I going to continue drawing?
Sure.
And do what I love to do, which is draw cartoons and different things. And so storyboarding was that thing for me to go into. And then I fell in love with story and developing stories and doing all this stuff. And so Sketch to Animate came out of the idea of sketch to animate and everything in between. We start with a sketch. Every story starts with a sketch. And that's what I have, right? You know, every story begins with a sketch, which is right there. And I said, sketch to animate and everything in between. Sketch to animate and everything in between. Sketch to animate. Oh, and I looked it up online. No one had it. So I said, oh, sketchtoanimate.com. So I grabbed it. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, no one's going to ever grab this. And so it fits perfectly. It's not using my name. And it kind of falls in love, you know, the brand. Yeah. And the whole point of Sketch to Animate is to inspire others to tell their story. In a nutshell, it's like, I want to tell stories through the vehicle of animation. There's many different ways you can tell stories, right? Music, poetry, hip hop, live film, theater. But stop motion, computer animation. But animation has been the place that I want to live. This is the place where I want to tell stories, and and if I can figure out a way to make money and inspire other people to tell stories through animation, that's what I want to do. And that's what I want Sketch to Animate to do. So that's kind of where the whole idea came from. And of course, it took 2 years of me procrastinating to finally, so I literally had it for 2 years. And Church is like, opportunity cost. When are you going to have content? You need content. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm working. I'm too busy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And then finally, like, no excuse. The beginning of the year, I did my first live stream, nervous as hell, not knowing really what to do. And I just kind of went for it. And I have this, my silent partner, who's my niece. She lives in South Africa right now, Aneta, who I mention all the time, who started helping me. She built my website. She's 24. She just got out of Vancouver Film School. She came over to me to intern with me, and then she ended up becoming my partner. And she literally was the catalyst that kind of said, all right, it's either do this or don't. And so I did. And I haven't looked back. And she's been such a great influence for me. A 24-year-old who has that much impact in my life, you know, to kind of get me going. And I owe a lot to her kind of getting the ball rolling for me to do what I'm doing now. But yeah, come on, we all procrastinate, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
But I wanted
So-
to jump in real quick
Yeah.
to build off of that whole getting into YouTube and telling your story and stuff. We have in the chat room L Cartoons, ELL Cartoons. Check her out. She's
yeah.
blown up just immensely. And it's exactly that. Like she was passionate about creating cartoons, and YouTube is wonderful, man. Like it's you can tell your own stories. There YouTube gives you absolutely no excuses. None.
It's pretty cool. I still don't know how it works completely. Like, I mean, because obviously it's a great place to kind of like get your content out there. And how did you spell that again? Al Cartoons, it said?
ELL Cartoons. Yeah, her stories are phenomenal.
Oh gosh, I gotta look at
She's
that.
hilarious.
I just wrote that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So YouTube, what is it?
So how
How
does this? I was going to ask how it's, because you've obviously been trying to ramp this up at the same time as you're doing some studio work. How has that balance been?
Sometimes no sleep. I mean, I realize getting to 50 years old, my body wants to stay awake all the time, but I'm not 24 either. So I do get hit harder, and I'm a miserable person to be around when I'm grumpy. So I kind of just go through it. Like there was a one point where I was working 2 full-time jobs and getting this house that I'm in now and trying to start the business and teaching all at the same time. And my students know me as kind of a workaholic, but it's just like, there was no time for health for me. So it was hard. So I actually kind of like set everything back and took work away. I quit certain jobs because I realized it was too much, what was my point? And I reached that point of like, I can't do anymore. Yeah. So my job work balance has been this full-time job that I've been on for the last almost year and 8 months, which is coming to an end tomorrow. And just working on my own stuff, which for me is great. It's a perfect balance. I typically would work on 2 or 3 things at the same time and work on my own project.
Wow.
Now, I work fast and I work loose, right?
Yeah.
So like if you ever see my drawings, they have a very roughness to them, and just because I get impatient, and that's why I love storyboarding too, because I can jump on to the next thing. It's hard for me to sit down and spend 5 hours just on one illustration.
Oh,
if I can't.
Preach.
It's like if I can't. Well, it's just like sitting. That's why I had to train myself to work fast. Yeah. And work quickly, and I was kind of known as an animator to work really fast, and crank things out and get things done. But they weren't the prettiest drawings. They weren't phenomenal, but it's just like trial by fire and trial by error. Just keep going. That's why you ever see some of my live streams, I'll erase it. I'll just I don't like this, and then do it again. And then even during a lot of my live streams, there's so many different topics because I go off tangents that I'm sketching, doing a doodle here. Somebody asks me a question, and I want to answer everyone's question. So it takes me away from what the point of that demo was supposed to be about. And then I go from like, hey, I'm going to talk about story and character building to how do you do hair on a person's head. And then and I'm trying to draw that, and then I got to bring it back in again. But because I draw really quick and loose, I can kind of jump all over the place and do that. But
Hey, Jack, are you
You
having
sit down.
PTSD from dealing with me?
Can you guys sit like what is your role, Jack, as over on this?
Well, weirdly, I've kind of become more like what you're describing. Is I kind of my intro into the industry and kind of my background. My background is really more illustration, and I really thought I was going to be like a 2D guy, but I ended up in the CG world, and my jobs were always, very specific. It was either like a character animator. I did like hair grooming for a while. I did cloth sim for a while. So it's always like, you're just doing that one thing kind of all day. Granted, you're on different shots and things like that, but it's effectively the same thing, and you get really good at just kind of doing the same thing, but really polishing it. And I worked, in visual effects, which is, the highest level. So you have to polish it. I mean, I worked on shots that had like 183 versions. So it's like, you just endlessly work it.
Wow.
And I found actually in my personal work, no, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I do remember a shot that was at 183 versions. And it did kind of bleed into my personal work. I kind of noticed, if I look back at what I was working on during that time period, that I was working on illustrations that were, bigger, more polished, a lot more detailed. There's like these really intense, large scale illustrations. And now I'm really more of like a supervisor manager role, where I'm kind of, like you said, bouncing around. One day I'm talking about lighting and color. The next day I'm helping with storyboards. So it's kind of like all over the place.
Yeah.
And I've seen my personal work kind of become the same way. It kind of is a little looser, a little faster. I'm more interested in just making content rather than like polishing it to the end.
It was I can completely like resonate with that, because when you're a storyboard artist, you have to draw hundreds of panels, right? Like it could be 800 to 1,500 panels for an 11 page script or a 15-page script, and you've got 4 to 6 weeks to do it. So you're not only do you have to know how to draw quickly and draw a lot. I mean, because now because of the way we board nowadays, you're doing more panels, you're doing more poses. You're practically animating these things and posing them out, and so you got to be fast and fast and fast. And so when I get down to try to do my own personal work, I can't sit down and just do one little thing. I have to go crank it through. And I was really proud of myself I posted this thing on my Facebook of my brother's painting and this illustration I did that I sent away to get put on canvas. And it's, if you go to my website, you can download the high-res image of this illustration. It's still loose, but I spent like 3 hours on it. Yeah. Polishing it, making it. It's a bunch of octopus, real colorful. And I did it in Calipeg because I'm trying to learn the software. And I made this image, and I blew it up to 30 by 40 inches, and I put it on a canvas at Costco. And within a week, it was quick because there's no one going to Costco. They delivered it to me, and I have it, and I put it on my wall, and I looked at it, and because I have nothing of my own work. I have none of my own work on my walls because everything is all digital. Everything's in, I started as an illustrator, similar to you. I was like, I wanted to be a cartoon illustrator, my big hope was to be on the cover of the New Yorker. If I made it to the New Yorker, right. I made it, right? Like Peter DeSev or Carter Goodrich, those guys. But I put this painting on the wall, and I put it next to my brother, and I took a picture of it, and I sat down and I looked at it. I go, that's the first time in my adult career that I had a painting that big, or canvas or anything that big, and I have it next to my brother's, because I don't have anything like that. It was like a weird bucket list accomplishment. Like I could check that off. I did it. I put it up. I got this illustration up there. But I would never spend typically 2 or 3 hours on an illustration, just because I feel like I got to jump onto something else. So I don't know about how that is with you, Carlos, but like if you can.
Let me tell you about Carlos.
Look, you could tell one story.
No, it's more of a just all-encompassing observation.
Let me tell you about Carlos. So Carlos went to school for 3D, But I always wanted to be a 2D guy. Always. Since a kid, I wanted to make cartoons. So I went to school for 3D, and it would take forever and a day just to make whatever character. And then you're not even done. You have to click render. And this is back when like computers were running off of like hamsters and stuff on the wheel. So then you'd come back a day and a half later and it was completely wrong. And I'm like, why does anyone want to do this for a living? And so I got into Flash, and that was my thing. And now I'm going to stand up for all my multimedia folks. Jack and I have had this conversation all the time. Jack goes out and he says, well, I worked on the movie Tron, and I worked on the movie this, and everyone's like, ooh, woo. And I'm like, yeah, so I built the website for Tron. I built the website for How to Train Your Dragon. I built the website for Tangled. I built the website for, and keep throwing out all these big names, and people are like, so Jack, you worked on that movie?
All right, I'm gonna sign off now.
Yeah, it goes back to hey, Carlos, why aren't you famous?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Hey, let me give you another story. Now that we're back on that, so I'm working in Hollywood, literally on like websites for movies, like full on movies. I go back to funny enough, Florida. We might be living the same.
Where
we might
in
be
Florida?
living the same storyline, you and me, Travis. But no, I went to. I have the majority of my family lives in Florida because Cubans,
But where in
Dominicans,
Florida?
know. But
Where?
He wants to know where.
where? Oh, Miami, Fort Myers, and the Orlando area, and now
Okay, So
What,
Naples. I
Tampa?
grew up in Naples.
Oh, okay, yeah. I
Yeah,
lived
yeah.
in
So
Miami
Fort Myers,
I lived in
yeah.
Miami for about 3 years.
Who knows? Our paths may have crossed.
Probably because I lived in LA for I think altogether probably about what, Jack, about 7-8 years. And I've never been to Disneyland. I lived in Florida for about 3, and I think I went to all the theme parks there. So Florida was, it serves its purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tease a lot about Florida, but you should hear me talk about Rockford, Illinois. Oh, but no.
But so you worked on all these. You work on all of these awesome websites for all of these great movies.
Yeah. And then I'm hanging out with the family, and my older brother, he's an electrician. He walks in and the C's part. He's an electrician. Blah blah blah. I walk in and I say, well, I built the what is it? The Evil Dead website. I built the website for Evil Dead, and you can
Tom Cruise.
And when Tom
website.
Cruise, I built Tom Cruise's website. You know what I mean? I don't mean to name drop, but you ain't just dealing with any old body here, right?
Hey, nowadays, come
Hang
on,
on.
we're all in that. Like,
Hey, real quick,
Yeah.
Carlos, is the Tom Cruise website that's up now still the one you did?
No,
I don't think it is.
no.
Okay, so we
one I
could
did,
tell
it
the
was a
story
fake.
now.
Oh yeah.
wait. So there's a story. So I mean,
Carlos does Tom Cruise's website. He's like, yeah, when I'm done with this, I got to show you this. Is super cool. I can't talk about it right now, but I'm working on a huge person's website. He gets it. He's like nearing. No, it's like live in beta or whatever. And he pulls it up, and it's the beautiful website with the guy's resume and all his accolades and his PR. And then what you do is you literally, while you're on the website, type Carlos Gomez. And Carlos's face comes up on Tom Cruise's website, just like big old Carlos face.
jazz hands.
Did they ever find it? Did you ever hear anything about it? Did they ever find it?
No, they didn't.
That's hilarious.
But no,
But it was
all of
during
this was.
beta. It wasn't during the official launch, but it was.
Oh no, it was there.
Oh no, it was
Oh,
there.
it was there.
It was
it was
there
there.
because I would go.
It was there
to
for
once
years.
in a while.
It was there for years.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish we could still do that now. Can we just do
Hang
that?
on.
I think I have a video somewhere.
I gotta see that. I gotta see that.
But my point, I think I probably have a video of it somewhere. I'll find it and share it with you. But my point is, like, if I went to, I'm doing all these really cool things, and then I go to like a family reunion, and my brother walks in, and everyone is loving on him because he's a successful electrician in Chicago.
Yeah.
I walk in and I talk about building the website for Tom Cruise and all this stuff, and then my family says, "So you can fix my email?"
Oh man.
You know what I mean?
That would be the equivalent to like, people know that you draw. So you can do the, first thing people say, you're an animator. Oh, so you do moving pictures? You do moving pictures?
Yes.
Says, can you do a caricature of my dog?
Yeah.
Hey.
Or no, usually what I get is my wife has a great idea for a children's book. Would you want illustrated?
Oh yeah, that's
I'll
another
send
one.
you the script,
That's
the
another one.
manuscript.
Yeah. And then, I don't even. Nah, they won't ever see this.
You pseudonyms.
Think for a moment.
Make up names.
Yeah.
This is
There
the
was
internet
someone.
forever.
There was someone that I was talking to. We'll say about 10 years ago.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. And they were working on a kid's book, and they were working with an illustrator that decided to just one day they just up and quit art altogether. And then so this person that I was talking to roughly 10 years ago told me, "So can you help?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Just I don't want to price gouge you or anything, but I need to, can you tell me how much he was charging you?" And this person, oops, almost slipped out. This person said, "Yeah, I think they said $250." I said, $250 per illustration? She goes, "No, for the entire 12 drawings." I said, "Okay, so you need to like delete my contact information because
it's what we do is such a labor of love and so intense and
oh, that was such an endearing response.
no, it's like I've had so many. I mean, it's like, how do you respond? Because not knowing who this person was that you were talking to, like I've had so many, like I would have probably have done something like that if I was first year in college or high school. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like hustling, because you're hustling to make money.
yeah,
But it's like, whether that person doesn't realize if the person knows the industry, then they wouldn't be asking you to do it for that much, right? The entire thing,
right.
Or they have no idea, or they know and they're just trying to see what they can get.
And I think this is a really good example of, I always tell, especially younger artists that are working for exposure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing more powerful than having your own projects, because if you are passionate about what you're working on and you get the wheels rolling and you're gaining momentum on this project that you're doing, you're not going to want to do anyone else's work. So when they show up with a check for $250 for something that's going to take you about 2 to 3 weeks to do, you can tell them, "No, I got this other stuff." Like they have to, that like people literally have to pay me to keep me from doing my stuff. I have such an attitude now.
Well, you've got to be, you got to get to a point where you got to find out what, as my girlfriend would say, opportunity cost. Like, what is the opportunity and what is the cost? And is it going to be worth your time and money?
Yeah.
And there's always, and I always try to find eloquent ways to say no to someone but I am very good about saying no, but not like in an angry or like, like demeaning way.
Right.
It's and what I get more passionate and frustrated about is like when I started teaching, I really fell in love with teaching. I really like the idea of teaching. I think that's why I with the idea of Sketch to Animate is that's part of the sort of package where I want to do online workshops and mentoring and teach through my website. But I get so passionate and angry sometimes because I don't want these students that are coming out of college to be taken advantage of. And I want them to have as much knowledge as they can of the real world before they leave. Because it still happens in this industry today. Kids, they're thinking it's exposure. I gotta work for Disney, or I gotta do this, or I gotta do that. And they're willing to work for nothing in order to do that. Now, granted, when I started and I got my internship, it was an internship. It was, they paid me money. It wasn't free. But it wasn't a lot. Yeah. But they did pay me, and it was opportunity cost, and it was worth my time.
Right.
But I don't like students and younger artists getting taken advantage of in this industry because they are younger.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I also want the industry to recognize seasoned artists, journeymen and others, for the talent that they have. It's not just about talent either. We know that, having 10 plus years in the industry, it's not just about being very talented. It's also about communication. It's also about work ethics. It's about how you work with other people. Yeah. All of that goes into play in what is your work, what is your quality and quantity. Yeah. And all of those play into what you consider is a fair price for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So when students are going out there, I'm actually one-on-one with my students. I'm pretty honest with them with what I make, because I want them to understand that once they get out in the real world and they leave college, they're competing with me.
Right.
They're competing with all of us.
Right.
For that next job. And I said, and I want them, because I want opportunities for everybody. I think there's enough work out there for all of us.
Right.
We don't need to be stingy. I think that's why, as adults, as people in this industry, it's our obligation to teach and give back to the younger artists. And one of those is like, hey, look, this is what I make. And I'm not telling you because I'm bragging. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to get cheapskated. I don't want you to be taken advantage of. And I want you to know, like, within this range, this is where you're worth. And you need to stick to your guns on that. Now, it's up to you with what this information I've given you, how you want to proceed forward. If you choose to take this job for less money because you feel like it's a good opportunity for yourself, then so be it. But at least I want to make sure that the students and younger artists have a fair reality check of like, because there is a range, right? You can go to the union and find out how much everyone makes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's usually on the low end anyways. And then everyone's above scale, typically, that have been in it for 5+ years. But you want to know what that range is. And I give that to them. I'm pretty open about that. Just so they have the reality check of knowing, oh, really, there is this opportunity out there? I said, yes, but you got to work for it. This is 30 years. This is coming from 30 years of working in the industry, right, of what I make, not just starting out of college, but you have to start somewhere. Not $250 for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the other side of that argument is, don't, how do I say it? Because I don't want it to come off heavy-handed. Don't be entitled. There, we ripped off the Band-Aid.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There should, my brother had a great thing, and ego is an ego. We all have an ego, and ego is a negative or positive. It's part of our psyche. Mm-hmm. What he was referring to is like, leave your maybe ego attitude at the door when you go into the story room. Everyone has an equal say. And we'd always have this policy. So it's the meet it or beat it policy, which is, if we're having a problem with the story, everyone in the room that's in the war room, the story room, working out that, if we have a suggestion that will elevate the story while still keeping it on the same theme, to meet it or beat it, that's always the goal to have. If you have because we all butt heads sometimes in meetings and stuff and arguing. If you can't come to a decision, or you can't beat what's already up on the wall, then you move on to the next thing. And that whole thing really taught me about everyone has an equal say. Everyone has a voice. Everyone deserves to have a voice. There's no, and I tell my students, there's no bad question.
There's just dumb ones.
I mean,
I'm just kidding.
You can have,
I'm kidding.
No, but you can have, dumb questions, and at that point, you as a person who has that experience can either be like call them out on the fact that it was a dumb question, or you can eloquently kind of make that feel like it was an important question, but yet this is really what we're trying to talk about.
Right.
It's like there's a way of softening. I learned the hard way not to call people out for being stupid, although my brother will call me stupid. Like, he has no problems like going, "That's stupid, dude. You're dumb. You're just an idiot. Don't." Anyways, so yeah.
I wanna take this opportunity to let everyone know in the chat room, if you're around on Saturday, 11 o'clock a.m. California time, we're going to be talking to Benjamin from Calipeg. He's an artist.
Benjamin.
Yeah. So he's an artist, and he's on the Calipeg team. And if you haven't played with Calipeg yet, you probably haven't been watching my YouTube channel, which, shame on you. YouTube.com/coconutjustice. Go and subscribe now. And then if you do a Google search for Calipeg, only my video is the first thing that shows up. That's all I'm going to say.
It's him like this.
I straight up screenshot of that thing.
I'm trying to look past over his shoulder, and Melanie and Elise and I'm fitting. There's only 4 or 5 of the guys now.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, you do great. You did the Calipeg stuff that you're doing is great, and I will be doing a very detailed, at the end of this month, I'm doing a tutorial for my brother. It'll be on his site.
Nice.
We're recording a very thorough Calipeg tutorial. And I'm going to be doing my approach to, I'm trying to create an animation pipeline using Calipeg only. So
Nice.
That's why I'm forcing myself to use it.
Yeah.
Plus, I've been beta testing on that, and a lot of the pencils and things that are on there were suggestions that I gave them to have as sort of like the first installment of things that they need to have, because their rollout for Calipeg is going to be huge.
Yeah.
This is just the first phase. I mean, there's the idea behind it is that this particular iPad, and I know everyone's like, oh, well, is it going to be out for Android? Is it going to be desktop? Is it going to be this? There was a market that needed to be had because I don't know if you guys like the pencil. The pencil is phenomenal. This pencil
great.
Is so good. And I have to say, I was impressed with the brushes and stuff that they have in Calipeg, because it does have a very much like a Procreate kind of feel to their brushes.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to do camera moves. They're going to have the rollout. The second rollout, they'll have a storyboard section where we can storyboard. So the idea is that this could be potentially a one-stop shop to create a pipeline. Just imagine in a year from now, you can have a production pipeline that involves iPads, working from home, taking it with you. And then, of course, you'd have to figure out the FTP upload and download, because you can only store so much on this.
Right.
But if that was designated just for Calipeg, that iPad, and it was a full-on animation production, which is sort of their goal, their rollout, it's, to me, that's what got me excited about working with them. And immediately when they first started, I kind of got a hint that they were doing. I said, hey, Lisa's a friend of mine, and so is Benjamin. And I said, hey, could I beta test that? And they're like, yes, please. So I just sort of got in there and got the beta test. I was so excited because I literally bought my iPad just to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I never had an iPad Pro or anything like that, and so I went and bought the iPad just so I could test it out and fell in love with it. It's just so good.
Yeah,
But
they're
your tutorials that you're doing, like I said, I learned a couple of things on there that I didn't know because I'm like Photoshop. You learn what you learn according to your needs.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're not making Calipeg for Travis Blaise. They're making Calipeg for the world. So
Right.
what I need out of it isn't what you might need out of it, right?
right.
We all have our different needs and wants or needs and wish lists of things to do. So there's things that I may not ever use in Calipeg at the end of the day because I just don't see it within my pipeline, but it needs to be there anyways. So it's nice that you're going in there and doing that. And so I was like, wow, this is really nice. Chocha and I, actually, my girlfriend who commented earlier, her and I sat down and said, hey, look at what he did. And I watched the whole 27 minutes, sat down and watched everything that you did. And I said, oh, this is great. Because you explained it very well.
Yeah, I thank you for that, by the way. Landon, who's in the chat room, Jack and I have been keeping an eye on this thing for a little while. If you're watching this and you didn't know, Calipeg started out as a Kickstarter project, and it's a 2D animation application on the iPad, and sure, there you have Flip a Clip, which is fun. You have Rough Animator, which is almost right in between the two. It's a little bit more professional. I've used Rough Animator for rotoscoping and stuff like that. It brings so much potential, but you still have a lot of the limitations. But then Calipeg, their first go at this thing is just mind-boggling how much they got right. And I'm not gonna lie, my very favorite thing that they did is where you can put the three fingers and flip and draw at the same time.
Yeah,
get out of here with that. Get out. It's amazing.
It's just so you. You're going to talk to Benjamin, and do you mind if I join in and talk and listen in with you guys?
Oh, you want to be there?
Please.
Yeah, no, it'd be awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
Benjamin,
you're there.
I met. Okay, let's just. Okay, so I have in front of me right now, and I'm not sharing the screen. I work in TV Paint, and my brother got me into TV Paint, and he was a spokesperson for TV Paint for a long time. The Calipeg team, they had already been in the industry. Some of them had already worked for like TV Paint as well. So I met them, and they had this idea for a long time what they wanted to do for themselves, separate from any other companies and other people that were working, and because no one has created a really good 2D app that really has a traditional look and feel for the iPad. I mean, there are people, there are a lot of other things that are out there, but there's only 4 people that are developing this. It's just a 4-person team. And it's really one coder that had to learn this whole system, but they're all artists.
Yeah.
And they're all passionate about animation, and they all are young and hungry and so nice. I've had the pleasure of being friends with them, all of them, for the last few years, and that's really why. Again, remember when I said earlier on, would you rather work on? I'd rather work. Maybe I didn't say this. I'd rather work with a group of great people on an okay project than if this was the best project in town, but the director's a raging asshole. The team is toxic. Yeah. Everyone, but they've got to get it done, and no one can get along with one another. I'd rather work with that smaller team that's solid, and they have each other's back. That's exactly how I felt when I found out that this group was creating this program, because they're putting their heart and soul into what they're doing for Calipeg. And when I say that they listen to artists, they really do. I encourage everyone, if there's something you don't like or want something to improve on it, they will try their best to put it in there. That's why I was like, I love this app. And people are like, why are you pushing that app instead of this app? I said, because they're good people.
Yeah.
You got good people behind a product. Something good's going to happen out of it. And they're generally awesome people. That's what sold me to work with them. I didn't care. I had no idea what the app was going to be. I knew they wanted to do 2ED and this and that. I said, well, I want to work with you guys. And they're like, really? I said, yeah, because you're awesome.
Yeah.
I literally said that to them.
Yeah.
You're awesome. And they're like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to be able to, I have TV Paint on my desktop, and every time I do my live streams, you talked about this. You've never used TV Paint, right, Carlos?
I haven't yet. Not.
You should try it. I found that TV Paint as a desktop and then Calipeg as an iPad is a great complement to each other.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because you can it'd be great if we could do one system that does it all, one ring to rule them all. But, in traditional pipelines, and even in production, everything's not done in Maya. Everything's not done in Zebra. It's you've got Photoshop, you've got all these different programs that people use to create a particular production work. So it's nice that you can put the two together, and I'm excited because I'm trying to make this tutorial for Calipeg that's going to be taking my TV series that I'm developing, my independent TV series.
Breaking
and
news.
I'm basically going to take like 2 or 3 shots, take it all the way from concept through storyboards, and then animation, then backgrounds and color. And I'm just going to do that as the tutorial, and I'm going to take you through the process of using Calipeg to do it all, to kind of show you how you can do it all with Calipeg. So that's the difference with what I'm going to do with the tutorial. Is it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to show you Calipeg, but I'm going to show you my process. So
Charlie
awesome.
heard
Yeah.
3D. Of course you did, Charlie. Stop it.
Her 3D. Oh, people ask me to do 3D all the time. I started learning, and I can't sit down long enough to do that. The graph editor, once I started working with the graph editor, I was like, no.
No, make Goose do it.
But yet, my buddy who's Alex Cooper-Schmidt. Do you guys know Alex Cooper-Schmidt? I mentioned he was the supervisor. I animated Stitch, and I animated Koda, right? So
by the way, good job.
And thank you. But the main guy behind it, the supervising animator, was Alex Cooper-Schmidt, and he is the guy now. Like I don't know how he did it. He was able to live in both worlds and do it very successfully. At one point, he even sat me down. He says, because he did the horse in Tangled, that was his.
Jeez.
Like one of my favorite characters, right?
Yeah.
And then he did Stitch. And then Koda and Brother Bear, and I was the animator for those 2 characters, but this guy was able to transition to 3D, and I was just like, one time when we were having a beer, I said, like, how are you doing this? Because his job now, they literally created a role for him, which is he is that 2D, 3D guy. He'll do drawovers, and he'll help plus the scenes, or he'll go over drawings throughout, like Zootopia or other projects. He still works with Disney in this sort of pipeline. But he says, Stefan Z, he says, after Tangled and working in this production, he says, my traditional animation got better. He said, having worked in 3D for so long and seeing these flawless geometric shapes moving in space and drawing over it so much, he was able to just subconsciously his drawings got better apparently. He started animating traditionally, which I was like, for that brief moment, I said, "Man, I gotta learn 3D." And then I literally downloaded Maya at one point, and I was like, ugh. That was it. I went, ugh. So I started storyboarding again. But
Hey,
it is what
Shiloh. Shiloh is here.
are we boring people yet? Are they people?
No.
They are lively. They're a lively bunch.
We need to catch up with some questions actually.
Oh, okay.
Scribbler80 was asking if you're gonna marry Calipeg with your desktop. Are you planning to like take the exports into After Effects, or how would you handle that?
Oh, and I've already done it once. I did a test. You can export PNG sequences right now. They're going to have PSDs eventually in the later versions because mind you, because of my experience, my 30 years experience, and they have an amazing French director that's also working with them too. That's been giving them a lot of input. And the pipelines are slightly different how Europeans work sometimes as opposed to American pipelines with animation. So I've given them a lot of like input in terms of how I see things should be. And they've taken those to heart. And so they will do like PSD outputs at some point, because right now it's limited to like a PNG sequence export, an MPEG or a GIF. Well, you're going to have multiple export options. And I told them, like, hands down, PSD is going to be an important factor when it comes to pipelines, because everyone uses it for their pipelines, no matter what you do, whether you're in Flix as a storyboard artist, and I'm using TV Paint, and Warner Brothers is using Flix, and they need exports of PSD sequences. So I can do exports of PSD out of TV Paint to do my boards. So I've asked, I said, hey, can you do that for this? So even with the PNGs, or even taking an MOV of the file from Calipeg, you can input it into, like, say, TV Paint, and then boop, 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 it puts it on your timeline, and I can tie it down, and I can do color and cleanup there. So you can, it's very easy to go back and forth.
Yeah.
And it should be a point where it doesn't matter what software you're using, the interchangeability, because obviously we're in our desktops a lot of times. And then when I'm in my living room, or I'm outside, or if I'm in a cafe and I want to animate out of my surroundings, I can grab my iPad Pro and do the same thing. And now you have the adapters that you can put your jump drives in it, and you can FTP things and airdrop, and my whole. I'm a Mac person, and everyone's like, why do you spend so much money on Mac when you can do PC? There's a whole argument there. But my entire house is like Apple TV and iMac, and everything's connected now.
Yep.
So I can watch what you and I are doing. It's like you and I share a project or something. I can quickly look at a test in Calipeg, and then do it in 4K, and then look at it on my 75-inch screen and see it like in a movie style, and see what it looks like, which is kind of cool. We couldn't have done that 15 years ago. Yeah. So there is that interchangeability.
And just wait till I tell you about Narbox.
What? What is Narbox?
Hang on. It's around here somewhere.
Narbox.
Is it like Reeboks and Starbucks or something? It's right, Norway and Starbucks.
I'm about to change your life.
It's a narwhal that had Reeboks shoe, or what is it? It's a new species of like shoe wear. Is it a baseball term? What is this?
It's a lot like Crocs, but different. No, this is.
Wait, not talk sports to me, because I know nothing about anything sports related. I apologize ahead of time. If you start talking baseball, it's gonna go way past me, because I knew as soon as I creeped on you, I was like, man, this guy likes baseball a lot.
Yeah, he does. No, look at Narbox. This is a portable hard drive that I can connect to wirelessly. And
what?
Then so then I can connect this to my if I'm out in the field. So I do travel videos too, like art-related travel videos. Imagine, the way I like to describe it is, if Anthony Bourdain and Bob Ross got together, you would have Artist Al Fresco, which is my travel videos, and I draw people that are in the streets, and
They could be hanging out right now. We don't know.
they might with
Yeah.
Elvis and Tupac. But
There you go.
Eating some Happy Noodles. Just some little Happy Noodles.
Happy.
But this box, like, so it'll take memory cards. So,
Okay.
so if you're taking pictures and videos and stuff, you just put the memory cards in here, and this backs everything up automatically. And then you can connect to it wirelessly with your iPad and transfer things back and forth. And even if you're doing like some editing and stuff, you can edit straight off of this as if it was connected to the iPad. And it's got like a little interface and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, like you don't even need those little adapters anymore. You get one of these. This is I want to say 500 gig hard drive that I can connect to wirelessly, and it transfers hella fast.
See, that would be great for the iPad for sure.
Yeah.
But how would that test? Because like all my video camera people and all my editing friends, they're all like, and I'm already witnessing this, like recording. Like, we're all doing our YouTubes, and we're doing our tutorials and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My system, even with I just got an iMac Pro, and I'm still having slow issues. And he's like, dude, you got to get a RAID system. You have to have a RAID. And I go, RAID? He goes, yeah. It's like, and he explained it to me like, you need to never work off of your iMac. You have to work off of an external hard drive that runs faster than your iMac. And so these RAID drives is what does it. And it's like $1,500. You get you can get a box with 4 of these. So if one goes out, you can use the other one. Yep. And I'm going, oh my God, I got to spend more money. He said, if you spend that, you'll be fine. You can edit to your heart's content. I thought, oh, well, if you do productions, independent films, you're going to need storage space. So,
Charlie, no, stop it. Stop it. He said PC. Get out of here.
What, is he talking PC?
Yeah, he is. Charlie, and that's why we only let Charlie on every once in a while, because he likes to. Charlie gets out of pocket from time to time. Love you, brother, but come on, PC. Hey, Jack, why don't you tell us a story about your new PC?
Yeah.
We drank the Kool-Aid. We drank the Mac Kool-Aid, the Apple Kool-Aid.
Yeah, drink apple juice. That's it. That's enough of that.
We bit the apple.
So I know that we had gotten onto the topic of Calipeg. So you guys, you got wrapped up with those guys. And by the way, if you're watching, go to calipeg.com. There's a really cool animation that was done in Calipeg where someone is sitting on the couch and 2 dogs are running around. That's your boy right there, Travis. I mean, come on. He did that, couple hours in the afternoon. He's just boom, boom, boom. He just throws things out there all crazy.
That was a couple hours in the afternoon of crashing it multiple times. That we went through many iterations. That's why I said, hey, take this animation and put it as part of your thing, because I broke the software many times because they wanted it. My job was to break it. Hey, we want to know where it's not working. And now I could do that with no problems on the current version that they have. But that took a little bit longer, mostly because it kept crashing on me. But
so it was like technical bugs, or it was creative limitations that you.
Because when you're learning, when you're writing a software that's as complex as Calipeg is going to be, there's a lot that goes into that we take for granted. We expect it to do its job, right? Push the button, start moving, no latency delay, no crashing, no, why am I not seeing a drawing when I should be seeing a drawing? We don't, but they're already trying to build a Rolls Royce in a little iPad, right? Their hand, everything is like step by step.
Yeah.
So that animation that you saw was, if you look at the animation, if you zoom in on it, I'm holding in my iPad.
Yeah.
And in there, I copied and pasted the loop of the dogs, and I scaled it down, and I redid it, and I looped it in there, so it's 3 loops, 2 different colors of the dogs timed differently.
Yeah.
And then I scaled that one down and put it in there, so it was like a loop within a loop, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's what caused me to crash it. Because, we're like, okay, what? And so, so with Calipeg, by the way, I'm also just a fan of theirs, and I make no money doing what I'm doing for them. I'm simply doing this because I love the team, and so I officially have become their artist for them. And I don't expect anything from them. All I expect, our promotion is, hey, we promote you, I promote you, kind of thing. And that's kind of like what we do. And so when they eventually get bigger, and which they will, and they go off to conventions and stuff, I will probably more than likely join in with them and do different things. But I'm glad you pointed out the little doggo characters.
Yeah, those guys were cool. Those guys were.
That was half the reason I downloaded it.
I can't ever tell because, I'm so hard on my own stuff. I'm like, I would tell, is this good enough? I don't know. Should I give this to them? I don't, I did the rabbit the other day, and I did it in a few hours, but I was like, I saw so many things wrong with it. And I was expecting, as soon as I posted it last night or the other night, I was expecting someone to say, hey, the thing's great, but the ears could be a little bit more drag here. Maybe you could do a little bit of arc here. And maybe do like, yeah. I don't want to hear any of that. Like, I
Shut
understand.
up, Aaron.
But it's yeah.
I wanted to go back to a previous question by L Cartoons.
Okay.
Where that's not the one. Any advice at all on character perspective? You are a god at this. What is the best way to practice it if you're at a beginner's level?
Does she know I'm Travis, not Aaron? Wait, what? No, that. Aaron
Hey,
Travis?
Lauren. Wait till we have Aaron on. We'll ask him.
Oh yeah, you can ask Aaron. Oh, well, actually, I do. I have a. If you go to my website and subscribe, I have a. Sketch to Animate. I finally reached 1,000 subscribers.
Hey,
I literally started. Yay! I asked my brother. I said, "What do I do?" And Aaron's like, "I've got." He's got 389 subscribers. I go, "Hey, did you do anything when you hit 1,000?" He goes, "No, it's just 1,000." I was like, and to me, I'm like, I just got 1,000. I was like, oh my god, because in January when I started this, I had 0 subscribers.
Yeah.
So going and doing it guerrilla and not putting money into advertising, which is what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, that's not bad. To hit. But I finally reached 1,000 subscribers. But there are a bunch of tutorials that I've tried to do, and I'm continually trying to do free stuff, like the if you can sit through in the Wednesday live streams that I do, I try to treat them more like education rather than just watching me draw something pretty.
Yeah.
I want to make each moment kind of an educational moment. So I started doing these back to basics. And I do have a back to basics on drawing perspective and drawing shapes. And one of the things that I learned, as a young kid was 2-point and 3-point perspective. I don't know what age you guys kind of learned that, but it's like it was sort of ingrained in us when we were kids. My dad was an interior designer as a kid. So when by the time we were 10 and 12, we knew first 1-point, 2-point, 3-point perspective. And it was just sort of ingrained in us to do that. And I bring that up in particular because learning that and really getting good at that is really going to help you in your shape and showing depth within character designing in itself. Because the cube method, right? You build a cube and all you do is you practice drawing that cube in perspective in different angles. And then you do a circle, and then you throw light on it. Well, where does the light come from at this particular angle, and how does it drop shadow? And then how do you do the reflective light and the highlights? And is it a spotlight? Is it a diffuse light? How far away is it? you learn all of these different things, and then you say, okay, when it comes to designing a character, you have to go back to those basics. You think the cube, and I remember watching Proco has a video where he interviews that, you know, the guy that's always at CTN, the Asian guy he's like a god. He can draw. He can just sit down and draw anything at any perspective.
Yeah, he's been on our show.
Oh, that guy?
Peter Han, yeah.
Oh, no, not Peter Han.
Oh,
Peter Han is great. No. This guy, he doesn't speak English.
Peter Han's older brother, then.
No. This guy is, oh my God, what's his name? Oh, I feel so bad because he does these really cool perspectives, and he'll draw a whole cityscape, and he starts with this one perspective, and he just builds from that. And so the point that I'm trying to say is, you build that box, and whatever perspective you are, that's when you use that as a reference point to build your proportions for the character. And the more you do that, drawing within a box and using grids, you're going to get to the point where you don't need it. You just see it in your head visually, right? And then you can start drawing your characters at different perspectives.
Is it Kim Jung-ji?
I think so.
Okay.
He draws in brush pen, and he draws very large form. He's been at CTN every year. He was at Lightbox. His books are phenomenal. It's just whenever I see his stuff, but he particularly talked about, Proco asked him the question. He says, how are you able to draw these things out of your head and draw it at an angle, at a perspective, and consistently keep it from that? And he says he starts with one point of view, and he talks about the box perspective concept, right? Mm-hmm. But he says he draws from this one point of view, and whatever point of view he's drawing from, whenever it goes out from that, the perspective changes from that point of view. So he has a point of reference that he starts with, even if he starts with a mouth or a chin, or let's say he starts with a foot, and the foot sort of a worm eye view, and he builds it from there. Everything will build from that perspective. And he says, I just see it in my head and do it. And he's done it so much. I mean, when people say that, you go, wow, I hate you so much right now. I'm so inspired by you. And that's the thing. And on the podcast with Brian Finley, I say, when I see artists that I think are so much better than I am, or just phenomenal artists, I don't get I've never been intimidated. I get excited. I get goosebumps. I get all fanboyish, and then I'm like, I gotta try what they're doing. Like I want to drink their Kool-Aid and see how they approach things.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't. No, I love seeing all artists from different levels and different perspectives and different mediums, because all of it to me is amazing. Like, we're all part of the collective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is creativity is it keeps culture alive, and it takes all of us to keep it flowing.
Yeah.
So that guy, perspective is the point that I was trying to make with that question, and really getting good at that, and to the point where you don't have to, you can see it in your head. Mm-hmm. And that's through repetition. You only get better through repetition. You only get better through drawing and drawing and drawing, and then more drawing.
It's like a muscle. Like if you go to the gym and actually work out all the time, not just like hang out, you know what I mean? If you work out, you're going to accomplish whatever it is that you just have to put the time in. Same thing with drawing, same thing with baseball, same thing with everything. You have to spend the time to get so comfortable that it becomes just second nature.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, it's like, how often do you draw? Like, how much time do you spend in your creative moments? Like, how much out of the course of a day? Like, when are you like disconnected from that, or are you ever disconnected from it creatively? Like, your creative person.
Very
it's kind of
Yeah, I don't feel that I mean, I don't draw as much as I'd like to, but I don't know that I'm ever disconnected from that person. Yeah.
I'm so bad. I mean, we can go back to the whole ADD argument. The iPad, the iPad has, I don't know, it's probably made my ADD a little worse, but it's made my career a lot better. Like, so for example, I'll take my iPad when we're done here. I might go down and watch a little TV. But when I'm sitting in front of the TV, I'm practicing drawing the people that I see on the TV because I want to get better. And so I find excuses for drawing more, and for animating more too, for that matter. You know what I mean? So, and and it goes through waves. Like sometimes
Yeah.
I'll draw something, I'm like, holy hell, who took my iPad and put that there? Because that was great. And then there's other times where I feel like my hand has a cramp and I just can't draw a straight line. And those are the days that you have to really work through and get through. And it, even those days are starting to get to the point where they are becoming more and more minimalized. And I don't freak out anymore. But it's that trepidation, like, okay, what am I going to draw? Like literally anything, literally anything. And that's just
Do
practice
you,
that's going into your skills.
Travis, do you do any of like the warm-up exercise, like just endless circles, lines, like that type of
Like,
warm-up?
I think Peter Hahn teaches that method.
Yeah, he does.
Um,
Uh,
I I think it's a great method. Do I do that now? No, I think it's just because I draw so much. I mean,
yeah,
because
yeah.
we are already in the industry, we're already producing things. Um, I mean, I'm literally tying down 393 frames for an action sequence for this final thing that I'm doing, and it's my third pass on it. And so within all of that, there's straight lines, there's curves, there's circles, and repetition and things like that that are already sort of. I think that's great for beginners. I think it's great for.
Yeah,
But I do warm up sketches. I will do drawings for the sake of drawing, just to kind of do a mindless sketch. But I'm always thinking about story when I'm doing it. I can't help but think of a story in order for me to do that. The other thing I do in terms of warm up, not the straight line thing, but I animate like I sketch. So I'll all of those little like little girl walk cycle or a dialogue test or those are things are just me like as if I was sketching my sketchbook. I just do it
sure.
to do it and get it out of my I did a rabbit bounce real quick the other yesterday, and then somebody mentioned chicken and bunnies, and I immediately went, oh, I got to draw chickens now. And then I started sketching. I animated a chicken. I hated it. I didn't like it, so I deleted it. But it's sort of like going back to the whole thing, like me asking you guys the question, like, do you disconnect from creativity?
Yeah.
I watched this really cool documentary last night. Can't remember it, but it's about art of the graffiti. No, the title. It's basically about Tunes, this graffiti artist that grew up in L.A. And it's the first time I've seen it. It was his partner in crime who videotaped and documented this whole thing. It talks about the whole subculture that these guys were in during the early 90s and late 80s, early 90s with like Snoop Dogg and Wu-Tang and Method Man and 50 Cent, and all of these people ended up getting these images on their tattoos from this guy Tunes. And Eminem, has tattoos, and this guy became an icon. But there is one point that completely resonated with me. Like, I love hip hop and I love graffiti and I love tattoos. I don't have any, but I appreciate the art, and I'm a huge hip hop kid. But the one thing that stuck with me, that out of the whole documentary, he says, art is something that if I'm not doing it, I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable I feel weirdly out of my skin if I'm not being creative. If I'm just sitting down, I get on. I can't. My brain is constantly wanting to pick up a sketch pad or pick up the iPad to draw. And even though I'm socially trying to be interactive with my friends and do all this stuff, I'm a whiskey night drink that I do. I go with my buddy and I bring my iPad with me now because I know at some point I got to sketch. At some point, at some point, because I get uncomfortable if I'm not doing it. It's weird. Yeah. It's like, and when the guy said that, I go, I get that. That totally makes sense to me. Like he never felt comfortable not doing it. So, and you could tell when you watch this documentary, like these guys ate, slept, just everything about what they did. And it shows. I mean, they're iconic in terms of what their influence was in the LA scene. So,
well, now that I know that you're a passionate hip hop dude, someone that you are talking to currently is on the team that's working on the history of Chicago hip hop documentary.
Who? Which one? Which one?
The brown one.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta talk, man.
Cool. Yeah.
I had this one experience because life is full of, like, you know, people talk about, like, oh, you know, even in this documentary, they talk about all your accolades and what you've done and what you haven't done, and you can have it all and lose it all.
Yeah. MC
but
Hammer.
You have those, all you have are those. Well, no, but all you have are those moments in time, and no one can take that away from you.
Right.
You know, wherever you were, it doesn't matter if, you know, it's, and so there's this one time where here's this white kid, me, from Vermont, grew up in because I'm constantly analyzing, like, parallel universe, like, how did I get here to here, and why did I meet this person? Like, how can Aaron be like, you know, we could watch Genesis and Phil Collins, and then he works for Phil Collins for 4 years on Brother Bear. Like, how does that happen? And then here I am at one point, I'm in New York City, and my friend is friends with this guy that is a hip hop artist, and we go to see him record, and all of a sudden this group of guys come up, and now at face I don't recognize them, but I know their music. And it's, I don't know if you've ever heard of Wu-Tang. And there's a huge family of the Wu-Tang. So he's, what? It was Ghostface and Raekwon the Chef.
Damn.
Were there, and my friend hits me. He goes, "Dude, it's Ghostface and Raekwon." And of course, what he does, he goes, "Hey, man, you know, you gotta meet this famous animator." And I'm like a nobody. Like, I'm just like, he goes, and Raekwon's like, "What? Oh, you got to come down here right now." He's, "You got to come down here." And I'm just like, oh no, and so Raekwon and Ghostface, actually it's just Raekwon. Raekwon pulls me down to the fourth floor below. Because this is a building that has recording studios in Manhattan, and I walk down to the next floor. And oh, by the way, the person that was hanging out with was Busta Rhymes.
You like leave that little detail out.
Which was another weird thing.
This guy who's a hip hop artist.
Which was another weird thing, because I'm just like, again, these are iconic people, but they're just people.
Yeah.
And so, but the surrealness of the whole experience, I always love telling the story because I am proud that I got to hang out with these guys, because I was huge fans. And so Raekwon brings me down to the studio, and of course I go walk down, and the rooms get more smoke filled and pot, and just I'm just getting a contact high as I'm walking in. And I remember what I was wearing. I was such a nerd, the clothes that I was wearing. So I walk in, and it's Ghostface laying there on the couch, and there's these engineer dudes working on the engineer. It's just a little engineer room, a recording room, and there's their bouncers and their manager, and then it's me and my wife at the time, who's also there. We walk down and he immediately like lets me listen to this track, and I listen to this track. He says, I want you to do a music video of this track. And I'm just like, my mind is just getting blown right now. I'm like, what? You want me to do a music video for you guys? And long story short, it never happened. However, at some point everything kind of becomes a blur because I'm sitting against the wall, sitting there, and I'm sharing a blunt with Raekwon, and he's getting me completely high. And we're having this weird existential moment where he's like, we're the same exact age, and he's like, and I go, here I am, blah, 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 and I'm sitting here, and you are from the street, doing this and this and this, and we're here, and who would have thought we'd be sitting here? And he goes, yeah, this is crazy. And I'm sitting here like, I said, and I'm like, at this point, I'm going, the biggest fan is my buddy Brian Bouchamp, who lives. Hey Brian, if you're out there, he lives in Brooklyn or Jamaican Queens area, and but he went to Disney with me. He's the one that introduced me to Wu-Tang, and I was just like, if I don't call him right now and let him know that I'm actually not just sitting, I'm so high right now with this guy, I don't care. I mean, it's like. I said, you got to call. So I dial the phone. I said, here. And Raekwon starts talking to him. This is blowing my mind. He's like, what are you doing? He's in Florida, and I'm in Manhattan hanging out with Raekwon. And it was just like the most amazing night ever. And then after that, we left, and it was it. But we just had this moment, and I have. Do I have it? I do.
Could you imagine the Uber Eats order that these guys were?
In one of these sketchbooks, I don't know which one it is, I have his phone number and address. I called it. It's no longer his phone number anymore. It's no longer his address. But it was, at the time, it was Raekwon's phone number and address. And it never happened. We never made the video. They didn't get the budget for it. Nothing ever happened, but I look back at those moments like, wow, this is so cool that I got to experience this, and it was because I was, quote unquote, a famous animator.
Because you're Aaron's brother.
Wait, yo, are you Aaron's brother?
Yeah, that would have
Aaron Blaise ain't nothing to fuck with. Aaron Blaise ain't nothing to fuck with.
But it's 100% true, and it was just a really cool story, and I love those are those moments I love looking back on.
Well, now you get to teach Alexa to add something after Animator, frequently known to hang out with Wu-Tang Clan.
Once. They would not remember who I guarantee they wouldn't remember who I was.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
If I ran into Raekwon, he would not remember who I was.
All right, so now we need to hip hop check. Did you see that RZA and DJ Premier were supposed to battle?
What?
Yeah, it happened.
When?
I want to say it happened a couple days ago, maybe 3-4 days ago. Yeah.
Oh, my friend, Drop the Mic, that series Drop the with Method Man.
Oh yeah. Loved
so
it.
one of my good friends from Orlando, he's a close friend of mine. He lives in LA. He did a lot of producing for that show. A lot of their
that was
exterior stuff.
Yeah.
And he got to hang out with Method Man, or I'm sorry, Method Man. Wow.
That's awesome.
And he said such the nicest guy.
Yeah.
He said and I mean, what's interesting about, and Aaron even said it with like Phil Collins, there's a certain point where these guys are just like, you can feel their energy.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel like they're on a different plane. They're on another level that's so special, and you could just feel it and see it and hear. And I I had little glimpses of that, like when I was hanging out with those guys. It just, I don't know if it was confidence or just like you're in the presence of something. I don't want to say godlike or angelic, but it was just something. Their energy was something like none other.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's kind of like that with like Method Man, or like, I know with Aaron it was kind of like that with Phil Collins. Just to be in that moment.
Yeah. And yeah, that would be a really fun, because in my earlier years, I almost became a psychologist type of person, but other people I worked with told me that I had too much talent drawing to go make money, because there's no money in psychology. But where was I going with that? Oh, it would be fascinating to see if it's their aura that makes them successful, or if it's success that then feeds that aura. You know what I mean? Because you can hang out with people with zero money and everyone feels down. You hang out with some people that have a little bit of money, you feel a little bit better. Yeah, a little stress is gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I would argue that like these, I mean, it's opportunity. Like,
and it could very easily boil down to what we were saying before, is that hard work, and you have a team behind you that's actually getting things done. Like, people are attracted to people that get things done. Like, this is the thing. This is how we're going to do it. Let's go do it. And then, you take over Bunker Hill or whatever it is that you're doing.
Well,
Look at
well, that was interesting because I was listening to NPR today. And they were talking about, because there's all the social distancing in sports isn't going around. There's a new documentary on ESPN about the Bulls and Michael Jordan, and they did an interview with the director of it, and he was talking about how Michael Jordan wasn't the best person, like the best athlete, if you like hands down, like the most athletic or whatever, but he was the hardest working, and the one that, like, he said they wouldn't be who they were if it wasn't for him, his this relentless leadership and his relentless like work, drive harder, because that was what his thing was that kept the team together. And it was interesting because it was like, he's known because, I guess the players know that, because he was such driven to be, he had to be better than everyone else. Like, he had to work harder than everyone else, and he had to show that, and then he needed everyone to push themselves harder.
You want to go down a really fun rabbit hole? Go on YouTube and do a search, when shit talking Michael Jordan went bad.
Oh, I think I saw that.
Those are so much fun.
Oh yeah.
There was one that I saw. It was Kevin Garnett, and I forgot who. I think it was Ray Allen, maybe. And I know you've already set the table for I'm wasting my time talking to you about sports, but this is for like people like Charlie and stuff. Kevin Garnett, I think he was still a rookie, and he said the wrong thing to Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan just snapped off and put like 30 on his lap. He was like, "Here you go sit your ass down, kid."
Oh my God.
It was wonderful.
Sports, yeah. I was a wrestler in college, in high school. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it for me. But I'm competitive, but not in sports.
Yeah.
Because I think wrestling did, however, teach me discipline. I did that the wrestling, because it was the most challenging team and individual sport. Like you're basically fighting against yourself when you're one-on-one with that other person.
Yeah.
Because you know it's your like I remember wrestling all the time is like in that moment it's like you can easily defeat your own self before you even get on the match because you play mind games with yourself when you get on before you get in the match on the mat with this other opponent. But it taught me to really be disciplined and work hard and not give up.
Yeah.
So I think that's some of the good things that I took out of wrestling was the work ethic idea. So for me, but other than that, football, baseball, any of that.
Yeah, I did all. I did all of those.
I thought I'd like maybe I'd try hockey, and I realized how big those guys are.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the professional anyone, I'm 5'5" on a good day, and you know these guys, the shortest guy, are what 6 foot.
Yeah.
Well,
You
the
know,
shortest one.
Literally. Like, wow.
Be that little running back guy that's hauling ass across the field.
Yeah, but he's still like 5'8" or 5'10". He's still like 5'10".
But his thighs are like 3 feet. 3
They
feet.
are
Around.
I mean, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I've never heard of any single professional person out there, other than maybe boxing, that's 5'5".
I want to say, how tall is Daryl? What's his name? Darren Sproles, I think. Darren Sproles. Now basketball. I mean, basketball all day. There, you had Muggsy Bogues that was like 4'10", and I'm not even Carlosing right now. Like this dude was tiny. Like he was bouncing the ball like this, and he could dunk. Muggsy Bogues was another one. Spud, what's his name? Spud Webb. He was another one that was like
even
like
if you look at
5'6".
professional skaters, right? Most of the professional skateboarders are super tall too.
Yeah.
Or tallish.
Yeah.
You know, and I always say, like, I may not be good at playing sports, but I could animate the hell out of anyone. Like I could animate the best skateboarder. If you you can do a 360, I'll do a 980.
Yeah.
I'll make that guy do a 980 with a spin and a twist. You know, like I can animate the most professional skateboarder you ever want, and have him look like an alien.
Okay, so we got Long Arm says that Muggsy Bogues was 5'3". So here's my
Really?
Yeah.
That's short.
Yeah.
That's short.
Spud Webb was 5'7".
See, and still Spud Webb was still 2 inches taller than I was.
Yeah. So this
I
is
call
my
it hobbit size.
this is my my I'm 6 feet maybe, stretch me out 6'1" depending on what shoes I wear. I was playing basketball. It was a pickup game, and if you watch basketball when Michael Jordan was around, you probably know the name Stacey King. Stacey King came to the gym, and we were playing, and he was against me, and I was good. When I was young, I was good, and I was like making moves, doing all kinds of stuff, and I went up to dunk, and I cocked it back, and I was like, I'm gonna dunk on Stacey King. He had his arms up like this, and I jumped at the top of my jump. I finally made eye contact with him, and while I was in the air, he literally said to me, "That was cute." Grabbed the ball out of my hands and took off running down the court. True story.
That's hilarious.
He said to me, "That was cute."
Again, I'm horrible with names. But I got to be friends with this guy in Orlando who was he was a professional basketball player for International League. He wasn't ever in the NBA. He played for China and different countries. And this guy was 6'8", and he has a presence whether he's working an athlete or not. Yeah. And when we'd go out to dinner, heads would turn because I was so short. And him and I were just chilling and doing whatever we were having dinner and lunch and stuff, hanging out. For a while, we'd hang out a lot downtown in Orlando. And I'd never been in contact intimately, like on that level with somebody that tall before. And every now and again, and I never think about it when I'm with my friends because most everyone's taller than I am. And I never really think about it. But at that moment, when he goes to reach for his glass, and, my hand is like this. But he literally could hide the entire glass with his hand and you don't see it. You have to recognize, like, you have to see it, like, wow, that guy was huge. His hand, like, I'm not shitting. Like, his whole, like, he could put his whole hand in front of me right now and my face would be gone. It was
blot
gone.
You out. Just blot you out.
Swallow my face whole with his hand. Like,
now that we're going down this path, I met in the 80s. In the 80s, the Chicago Cubs had this pitcher named Lee Smith. He just made it into the Baseball Hall of Fame like last year, I want to say. I met him at spring training, and I went up and I said, Lee Smith, what's going on, man? I watched you when I was a kid and all this other stuff. And he took out his hand and he goes, hey, what's going on? He took out his hand and it was like this. It was like this. His hand was like a king-size George Foreman grill. It was a monstrosity. I was like, I'm just normal.
It's like a Disney cartoon when the guy's hand, like, just the woman's hand just fits nice in their little.
Yeah.
Like, he could probably scoop me up like a little baby.
A little baby.
Mind you and I were standing next to each other. You're what, 5 inches, 6 inches taller than me? What are you? No, you're.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'm 6 feet. 6 feet and a sprinkle. Jack is huge though. Jack is pretty tall.
Jack, are you pretty tall?
6'2". Yeah.
Really? You guys look so short from my end. From my angle, you guys just like.
I actually get that. I get that a lot. Like when
you're like this big right now. I'm pinching your head. Only that big. Man.
You're just blotting us out with your big ass hands.
Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Look what I can do! Look at that!
You guys are tiny babies.
Done.
I don't want this to end, but we've been going for 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Boring people to death because we just went into sports and hand sizing.
Oh no, I don't think. I think everyone is excited that we're telling these stories. But no, like we can totally keep going. I don't want to. I don't want to keep you away from your.
I feel like I'm really good at taking people off topic.
Oh,
so if there's things that we need to talk about, like because people came on here to listen to us about talking about animation, so I know was there anything
necessarily? I mean, we've gone down. We've talked about depression. We've talked about space aliens. We've talked about look at long arms that grow up. You two
getting high.
We've talked about getting high. Yeah.
Living in someone's shadow. Why aren't you famous?
Nice.
Do you have any other siblings other than Aaron?
Well, Aaron and I grew up together, but there are my dad. My dad was a rock star. He was a music. Actually, this is my father. I always have it behind me. Oh. So the Melody Boys. This is when he was 15. That's him. He's 80 now. He's 80. Nice. And you'll see him a lot. Great. My brother talks about him a lot too, but he's down there. My dad has 10 kids, or 9.
Whoa.
We think. We know 9 for sure. I'm the youngest son. So my brother and I are from one mom. And then there's 9 of us. So there's seven sons and then two daughters. So there's, they're all half brothers and sisters except for Aaron. Yeah. Aaron and I are like, one mom, full blood.
Yeah.
So, and we'd spend summers together, but we never like lived together, except for Aaron and I. So Aaron and I are experiences like we've got we've got a lot of stories to tell. And I told that one story. I don't know if during one live stream, I talked about when Aaron and I were lost in the ocean for 3 days.
Yeah.
Which was there's so much about that story. There's so much more about that story that, again, it's like one of those experiences like I talk about Wu-Tang and sitting there and having that moment.
Yeah.
That 3 days was like the most memorable childhood experience that I've ever had in my entire life. Like, how many people could say they were lost in the ocean for 3 days, survived it, and we're doing what we're doing in our industry, telling stories. I'm like,
yeah.
And I want to tell that story. I want that to become a movie.
Awesome.
I'm serious. I really want to make that into a feature. I want it. I want to make it animated. Everyone says, "Oh no, I think it should be live action with some animation." I'm like, no, I want it. Wouldn't it be fun to do an animated feature?
Right.
And the theme is about family. Family drifting apart.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what we were talking about. What?
Wait,
Jack,
what?
come on. You don't have ADD, right?
I just hide it really well.
Yeah,
no,
Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie. Aaron and Travis were lost in a little rickety boat for 3 days.
Siblings. You asked me if how many siblings I had.
Yeah.
Led to the whole. Aaron and I have a lot of stories, but him and I growing up together. That's why we're like, we have a bond that will never part because of our experiences. Yeah,
Jean-Luc says, your dad took go forth and multiply very seriously.
And he's not even biblical. So, hey, he was way ahead of his time. Yes, he's a mountain. He's a northern hillbilly.
Yeah,
he's a mountain man, Vermonter. He is like my dad. He's a Vermonter if there was ever one. Master carpenter. He never went past the, I think, 8th grade. I think his dad says, well, if you're not going to go to school anymore, you're going to go to get a trade. And so he made him become a master carpenter. And he's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen my dad. I kind of see where we get that sort of that DNA, if there is DNA that kind of runs in the family. I don't know, what makes a person. I think we're all born creative. Yeah. But my dad, we're all left-handed, ironically.
I noticed that.
My mother passed away a few years ago, but she was also left-handed. But my father, he can, that visualization of just seeing something, scribbling it out, and just building it like that. That was his gift.
Nice.
He can build anything. Just he think about it, he'll do it, and just look at Aaron's backyard. It's all my dad. It's like, and my dad is legally blind now too.
Oh man!
Like he's so good. He made like there's this Facebook of Vedanta, Aaron's girlfriend, shows this little picnic table, and then they put and my dad had made this picnic table in like an hour or 2 hours or something while Aaron was doing a live stream. He shows up and he has a picture of a picnic table for her squirrel, and it's just this perfectly miniature picnic table to scale. And I'm like, and I look at it, I go, he just did that like, we would do a scribble, right?
Yeah,
in a sketch pad. But he just, and mind you, he can't see shit. Yeah. Like, when he looks at me in the camera, he's like, hey, Travis. He's like, he's looking at me now. And it's weird because he has macular degenerative, that disease where his, the deteriorating the macular degeneration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called.
Yeah.
It's weird for us to see him, but he goes out there and he'll tell Aaron what he wants now.
Yeah.
He says, no, you're gonna go do it like this, and when he does those things, he just feels it. He just feels it through and does it, and that's like crazy to me. Like, and crazy. We get a little bit of that too. Like Aaron and I like to build and do different things like that, but man, the talent that guy. And a wood duck carver too. He did wood duck carving. And I told my dad, I said, if you can't see now, he said, why don't you try sculpting? Because you can feel. You know, I said, "Man, why
He
don't you
said, "I
try
hate Ghost." So going off of your dad slowly losing his sight, and you guys are here, right? You guys are these fancy art guys. Do you guys ever go visit your dad and he's like, "All right, pick up a pencil. I can't see shit anymore. You need to like draw something for me because I'm about to get to work." Does he do that type of stuff?
No,
No.
no. My dad's not. Well, you know, mind you, we didn't grow up with my father full time. Like it was, we'd spend summers with him,
Sure.
and it wasn't until we got to our adulthood. And of course, my entire family is on the other coast. I moved as far away from everyone as I could possibly move. Like they're in Florida, in DeLand, Florida,
Right.
and I'm in Seattle, Washington. And I have no other family other than my girlfriend here and her family and my best friend who lives here. But they're all down there. So my brother sees him a lot more than I do. And my brother, my dad lives with him and stuff like that. And Aaron will tell me how my dad will get cranky sometimes. And especially he got sick. We think they say he didn't get the COVID, but my brother was like saying he got super, like they thought at one point that they were going to have to take him because it was, my dad thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
But he coughed it out like he is a tough old bird that he is. But I think Aaron said at that moment he was just a mean old cusp, like an irritable guy, and for a good reason. He was sick. But my dad, he's never been. I don't know. I never had that type of relationship with him. It was always like the summers were like dad's super dad.
Yeah.
It's my summer dad, right?
Yeah.
And so I got him as he never got through the he never had to deal with the terrible teens like me.
Yeah.
He never had to deal with all this stuff.
Right.
So he got me, it was like summer dad and then adulthood.
Yeah.
And at that point you have your own family, you're doing your own thing. So dad never saw the bad side of me. I never saw the bad side of him. So,
yeah.
It was okay.
It works out. Yeah.
Yeah, it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can go to that. Man, I have so many stories about my dad. We have to meet up face to face and just have drinks and just tell stories.
Wait, so you're in San Francisco area?
Yeah.
Like in San Francisco?
I live in Sonoma, so about 45 minutes north in wine country. That's
You're in
right.
Sonoma.
That's right. I drink with my pinkies out.
Oh, okay. He's in Sonoma, Jack.
I'm well aware.
Yeah. Does he let you know that he's in Sonoma?
I let him visit.
Oh yeah. He lets me visit.
I can throw popcorn at Lassiter across my villa.
Oh yeah, don't get him started on that. Let me take you to John Lasseter's winery.
His estate. I can always live vicariously through my brother. My brother's got all kinds of stories. He's visited Lassiter and had dinner over at his house and got to ride his train, his little choo-choo train. Choo-choo.
I've been on it twice.
Ollie Johnson. He got from Ollie Johnson or whatever.
Yeah.
You been to his place?
Yeah. I've been on that train a couple times.
Really?
I live probably 15, 20 minutes away from John.
See, there he goes. We're just I'm peeling back the onions. The layers are starting to unfold. Okay.
Yeah.
This is yeah.
Yeah, Scribbler. Yeah, kind of. A little bit. I run in pretty cool circles.
Yeah, I can only live vicariously through others. Like my world now is 360 square feet.
You got that much?
Much bigger through the internet.
I'm starting to buy these little cool collectibles. Like this dude, I forget his name. Is again horrible with names. Italian sculptor out of San Francisco. He goes to CTN every year.
Huh.
He does these loose sculptures.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I have his
really
card
cool.
somewhere. I have 2 of his sculptures. Super awesome. But yeah. I don't get out that much anymore.
Oh, speaking of CTN, that's I always tell this story because it's hilarious. Jack and I were walking through the artist alley,
Oh yeah.
and it was hot as balls.
Sounds like a children's book. Jack and I, it's hot as balls.
Idea.
Sorry.
Hey,
No.
my wife writes children's books. Would you guys illustrate it?
It's called Jack and I are hot as balls.
No, it's called Sack and a Beanstalk.
Jack and his bean sack. But no, so we're making our way through the crowd, and we bump into this guy, and I look, and the guy's shorter, and I was like, Aaron Blaise, is that you? He's like, oh, and he looked up and he's, and
Was it him?
I'm a bigger guy. I forget. I get excited sometimes, And I was like, Aaron Blaise, is that you? He's like, yeah. What's going on? I was like, hey, man, thank you for everything. I got a couple of your lessons and all this other stuff, and like everything you do is really cool. So thanks. Keep up the good work. By the way, I have Sketch Zone podcast. If you ever, he's like, yeah, just email me info at blah 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 blah. Never heard back, which I don't blame him. Some random humongous brown kid was like, hey, is that you? Give me your purse, So, but that's I bumped into Aaron Blaise story.
You just profiled yourself, man.
Oh yeah, completely. I don't blame you. I don't blame people for
And
looking.
did you know that I was standing right next to Aaron at that moment?
CTN 20, what was it? 18?
I was like, hey.
Hi, I'm Aaron's brother. I'm like, funny, I'm Armando's brother.
You're stepping on my foot. Get off my foot.
Oh,
my
man.
God.
Hilarious.
Aaron. Yes, animation. It's a wonderful field that we're in.
It is. It's pretty great. Can't complain.
No, can't complain at all. At all.
Yeah.
Look at us. We're here. We're here. I mean, we spent 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 40 minutes hanging out.
Yeah. Just catching up like old friends.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's the great thing about animation. It's like there's a kindred spirit that we all share. There's a connection.
Right. Right.
And we come from completely different facets and backgrounds, and yet we do the same thing.
Right.
And we can sit here and just enjoy it. I'm having a great time, man. This is great.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad if I'm not if we're not asking, if does anyone ask any questions, or did everybody
We have one.
Well, we have one, but they're asking if my dad was in Cocaine Cowboys.
Cocaine Cowboys? Oh my goodness. Wow. Other brown guy.
Yeah. Was there? Hey, Jack. Was there something?
Oh, man.
Was there something else?
I mean, Charlie's dying to know who your favorite '90s hip hop producer is, but we don't need to get back into that.
No.
Why don't we wrap this one up? I'll reach
we're gonna
out.
see you Saturday.
Yeah, I'll reach out on Saturday. If you're available, we would love to have you. I'm assuming that Benjamin won't have a problem with it, but I'll reach out to him too just to make sure. Thank you, Landon.
I would love to have Travis on. Yeah, that would be great. That's Benjamin. So, yes, of course.
And Benjamin has a YouTube channel that's pretty successful too. So if you guys go to the Sketch Zone upcoming events,
I have not seen that. What is it?
I'll have to find it for you.
I was watching it the other day.
He does all of the video, all of the advertising, and all of the videography stuff. That's all him.
Yeah.
So he kind of does. They wear many hats. So he's doing the marketing and Lise is brilliant. She does a lot of because she's trilingual. She speaks multiple languages and Japanese. She's really heavy in the Japanese anime industry.
Nice.
So she's the one. She's kind of like one of the masterminds behind Calipeg. So have you ever talked with her yet, or no?
No, Benjamin's the only one so far.
Yeah, Benjamin's awesome.
Yeah, he really is. I'm excited to meet him. So going back to Landon bringing up Elizabeth's question, thank you both. One for the question, two for the reminder. Elizabeth asks, quick question for Mr. Blaise. Is TV Paint worth it? I'm a 2D animation student looking to upgrade programs, but the price tag gives me pause.
Software is such an interesting thing. No matter what software you get, it's what you do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, whether you draw on paper and pencil, TV Paint just works well with me because it's paid for itself. There is a price tag to it. It is around $1,300 American dollars, but it's an investment for me because this is my livelihood.
Right.
And it's already paid for itself, but it's a one-time fee.
Right.
It's not a monthly fee. Just like I had been using Premiere Pro, and I finally just bucked up and just bought Final Cut Pro for $299 one-time fee, and I love it. And I think it works much better, and it actually works perfect. It's built for the iMac. So you use it for what you need it. In terms of 2D, all I can say is Aaron introduced me to TV Paint. I started using it on my I have a 21-inch Wacom, and it was the first time that I felt like I could do everything in one program. And so for hand drawn, it's bitmap versus vector, which is what I really enjoy. I know the guys over at Toon Boom, and a lot of them have been trying to get me to switch over to Toon Boom. I tried it a couple of times. I just don't like the feel that it has. I think it's a brilliant program, and I think it works great for so many other people. You just gotta make your own decision on what works best for you and what your workflow is. I think your workflow is what's going to really dictate the type of programs you're going to need. Like, as a storyboard artist in TV, whether you like it or not, you got to learn Storyboard Pro.
Yeah.
I hate the program. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't like it. Do I use it for anything else? No. I only use it if I'm working on, let's say, I worked on Disenchantment. I've worked on Big Mouth. I've worked on, Pen Zero. I've worked on multiple other projects, and where I had to use Storyboard Pro. But it wasn't my favorite. It was just sort of a thing I had to learn. So it's all about workflow. It's about what your needs are for that particular thing. Luckily, the production I'm currently finishing up on is a Warner Brothers feature. It's Super Pets, which was announced. So I've been on that, and it's been great working with that whole team. I'm really good, close friends with Sam Levine, who's the director on that. He's co-directing with a guy named Jared. And so we who wrote Green Eggs and Ham, he's also producer. This guy is he's co-directing this movie. He's the showrunner for Green Eggs and Ham, and he's got a few other productions that he's doing. But they allowed me to use TV Paint. TV Paint's the first time I've been able to use it for production.
Nice.
Because it's for some reason in the States, and if in TV, Toon Boom got in with all the studios and created their pipeline. Now, if you ask anyone, Toon Boom, they don't use Toon Boom in the pipeline that you would think they would use it in, because it always baffles me. It's like, you have to use Toon Boom, but editorial doesn't use it. All they want is a JPEG sequence or a PSD output, because Avid doesn't. Everyone uses Avid. So where and that file that you do use never goes to Mercury Studios or whatever offshoot studio that has a Toon Boom pipeline. They never use the actual program, or at least not that I know of. So I never understood why we had to use that. But so Storyboard Pro or a TV Paint, when they asked me what program I wanted to use, I was like, hey, can I use TV Paint? And they're like, okay, can you do PSTs? I'm like, yeah. So I got to really know TV Paint pretty well over the last year and a half because I used it every day.
Cool.
Procreate. I would say if she wants to, they're for the best 2D program desktop wise, I think Procreate's great.
Mm-hmm.
People have said Clip Studio. People have also said Rough Animator. But if you're a traditional animator who likes bitmap-based programming, like Photoshop, TV Paint and Photoshop kind of were birthed from the same, I think, Video Toaster or something like that, and then they kind of came out of that era.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Video Toaster back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
I think was it Galaxia or whatever that TV series that had all the exterior shots that was all done in Video Toaster.
Yeah.
And it was the Amiga system, right? It was Amiga. That's what it was.
Jeepers.
And it had one of the earliest first pencil test machines for traditional animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like early.
The Amiga was a fun little machine.
The Amiga Video Toaster. That's what it was.
Uh-oh.
On zip drive.
We got a Are You Still Going from Kinchacha?
Oh my God, she wants Big House of phone or video Skype. She's like, "You're talking too much."
Yeah, sorry. We keep jumping on tangents and going. This is what happens when you have a room full of ADD.
No, this is great. I love the fact that you do this podcast, and I didn't know if it was what. I apologize for not listening to the previous episodes.
Don't worry, almost no one does.
But for you, the podcast is one thing, and then you also have your own. The Calipeg was through Coconut Justice.
Yeah.
So you have two different things going.
Yeah. We've been doing Sketch Zone. This is episode 199. We've been doing Sketch Zone for 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
And the history behind Coconut Justice, I started doing like different animated things. You'll see, like if you look through, I have like where I'm sitting in a car singing karaoke with cartoon characters and stuff. So I started doing things like that as almost like a portfolio, and I was pitching work off of just random ideas that I had. And I would say, that seems like it would go good with whatever client I had. So then the videos started slowly but surely picking up steam. And then I was like, well, I'm here. There's a lot of people, doing pretty well off this YouTube thing. So let me do a couple of tutorials. And then those started picking up steam. And I was like, well, I like doing that better than client work. I mean, I appreciate client work, and some of the projects are a lot of fun, but I love being able to, a lot like what you were saying earlier, Travis, is I really like following up on my own ideas, on my own cartoons, on my own, like I'll see, like, for example, I saw a character animator for Adobe. I was like, I wonder if I could, and then I worked it through, and then all of a sudden I'm singing with a cartoon character. So I'm kind of good at that stuff. Like, this is the piece, it would work good here. And then here we are, like, I just got monetized this morning. So
what's monetized? How does that work? What does that mean?
Are you being serious?
I mean, I'm an infant when it comes to this, and I have a big idea of what I want to do with Sketch to Animate and the workshops and the online programs, and trying to interact more one-on-one with other artists, and then get paid, as support through Sketch to Animate to have that workshop style. I know Schoolism does it, and there's lots of other things, but I'm trying to create a community of storytellers.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, I would love to create a short film festival series that could be exclusively through Sketch to Animate, but through my teaching and developing and inspiring people to create their own stories. I was just thinking as we were talking, do you guys ever challenge yourself, like while we're sitting here talking, like, we get prompted to do something, and then, I mean, literally we've been here for like a live stream for like 2.5, almost 3 hours. I could have animated a cycle of something. You could have been drawing something, and or even what would be even more fun would be like, one of you guys, we get a prompt, one of you guys starts with a sketch, and then you send it over to me and I draw it, and then I send it to you and you draw it, and we just have like a finished sketch of all three of our art in kind of in that, which I think is fun to do. I don't know if you've done this.
Yeah.
That'd be super great.
Have you guys done that yet?
Not really. Well, no, that's not. Early on, we did a couple of drawing episodes. Yeah, when guests are up for it, we have, yeah.
I'm always up for drawing, man.
Yeah, the thing is, like, so when we first have a guest on, we want to connect. We want to make sure, we want to make sure that we get the information that you're trying to get out. So we try not to pollute that. And we've talked to like writers, directors, like people from like all over the place, from all over the creative industry. So not all of them are going to be artists, but and we were going to tell you this after the show, but Landon knows, and Scribbler, he's been on the show 2-3 times. But if there's ever anything that, say, this is a great idea, if we want to follow up on it, let's do that. And then we just created a show specifically for that. I don't assume that people want to hang out with us more than they already do. So, so like if you are down, I would love to have you come back and just like do that very thing. And Lauren L Cartoons that was on earlier. She was actually on last week. But we've been friends for a little while, and she's a fantastic storyteller. So yeah, getting people to come back, I'd like to let people know this is what we do, this is what we're doing, and it's super laid back, should be fun, hopefully painless. And when you come back, now we already have a rapport, so now we can do all the fun things like storytelling and drawing together and doing all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you guys want me back, that's
absolutely.
Are you kidding me? We just put in 3 hours and it feels like 10 minutes. I feel like I'm talking to me.
Well, when you get a text from Chocho or Ken saying, "Are you guys still doing this?" Like, I didn't realize it doesn't feel like 3 hours to me.
Yeah.
No, this is great.
And when you when you go to talk to her, you let her know at right around 2 hours, I tried.
Oh, okay. Right. Throw me under the bus. Nice. I see how that works. I never asked. Kids, married, not married? Kids? Yes, no?
Married, no kids.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm not married, but I was in the Army and I have a kid in Germany.
I have two kids from previous relationship, but they're 25 and 27 now. Boy, time flies.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Crazy. I'm like, wow, you're that old, and I'm still irresponsible. And
well, I think it would be fun to do some kind of like creative challenge where we actually develop something in the 3 hours that we've been chit-chatting. We could actually have maybe develop the next TV show that's going to be out there.
We should. Let's do it.
Why not?
Hell yeah.
Why not? That's what I mean. I do that. That's what I literally do that with my buddies during the day, like twice a week or something. I get on the phone with my writing partner and another guy, and we start developing. Like we've got like 3 or 4 show concepts that we want to pitch. Our goal is to pitch this year.
Yeah.
I've 2 years off from pitching anything because I've just been busy working.
Yeah.
But and then you got Jack over there who's in it. He's in it. He's in the thick of it.
I'm aiming to pitch this year as well. I've got a handful of stuff that I'm floating.
Jack of all trades. You haven't heard that one before. Wow.
Hey guys, he'll be here all week. Try the meal.
Well, I'm gonna wait for that sack in the beanstalk. What is that? Jack in the bean sack?
Yeah,
Which one is it?
Yes, something like that.
Jack and his bean sack.
X-rated children's books.
And I hope Carlos gets some residuals, or at least we get a percentage out of that name.
I'm going to offer you guys exposure.
Full exposure. Wow. Okay. I am very honored that you guys invited me.
No, we're honored that you came on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Great.
I agree.
so Jack, if you're hiring,
I know a guy.
I draw.
I know a guy. He's pretty good. Have you ever heard of Aaron Blaise? Yeah, his little brother.
I will pass
I
it
know a
along.
guy that knows a guy that knows a guy.
I know a guy who knows me.
That was the last we ever heard from Jack again. I mean, you can talk about anything, but don't talk about that. No, it'd be great to do this again. This is so much fun.
I agree.
My second podcast of the week, which is awesome. I've never been on a podcast, and now I've been on 2. This is like cool and awesome.
You gotta check your manifest. What is that? Manifest destiny, or whatever.
Oh,
like, what is it when you think of something and it happens?
Yeah, manifesting.
Yeah,
I don't know. The Secret, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you think it'll.
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction.
The secret.
The secret is called
Jack and the Bean Sack. That's it right there.
I was saying sack and the bean something. I don't know. I had the opposite, but Carlos was better. He had a better idea. I mean, he did develop famous websites, so.
That's true.
Someone's got.
Of course. Of course, he'd come up with a better idea.
Oh, and Elizabeth, TV Paint has educational licensing. It's 500 euros.
If they're a student. Yeah, if you're a student, you can get it for like, I think $500 or $800 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is still expensive for a student. It's expensive for anybody. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
When we talk about how much software we spend, it's a big decision. I've got thousands and thousands of dollars in my equipment, but I work from home. I have to.
Yeah.
This is my livelihood. If I don't do it, then
people go hungry.
I mean, yeah, you just make that decision, right? It's a good tax write-off. If you have an accountant, it's a great tax write-off.
Right. So, hey, Travis.
Yes.
If people are looking for you and if people are looking for you online, and I'm trying to force the issue of if you can hear my voice, you need to go to youtube.com/sketch to animate.
Yes.
Go ahead and give everyone your social media details.
Okay, so I've got www.sketch2animate. So that's SK sketch, TO, not two, but TO animate. And you can go to my website. If you sign up to the website, you will get a high-res illustration of an illustration I did recently, which I enjoy. I don't know if I have it posted anywhere, but it's exclusive if you sign up to the website. And the website will have a newsletter that we'll put out monthly about events like this. We talk about the things that we've done, where we're going, things that we're trying to accomplish. And then also I have Sketch to Animate Instagram, Sketch to Animate on Twitch and Twitter. And I am also have a YouTube channel. So as you guys probably know, like I have Restream and OBS and Stream Deck, so I can stream multiple things. So when my Wednesdays live streams are every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I typically come on, it usually lasts around like now 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, where I just talk about and teach about animation from story to character designing to perspective to light to animation, dialogue, whatever is relevant. And that happens through, once I do that, that automatically goes to my Facebook. You can also find me on Facebook, but really find me and subscribe to the two important things for me is the YouTube channel and also my website, which is all Sketch to Animate.
Perfect.
So that would be awesome. And soon and very soon I will have most of the stuff I'm doing is free because I want to, during this time, I kind of want to put that out there and get people free tutorials. But at some point I will be offering paid tutorials and online workshops.
Nice.
So yeah, the goal, the end goal at some point. And then hang out with you guys.
And Jack.
That's really all I want to do.
You can find me.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just wanted you guys to know I only created my thing to hang out with you guys.
Oh.
I manifested this
Awesome.
moment.
Oh, man.
Sketch to Animate 2 years ago brought me to this moment, and now I'm done.
Sketch to Animate makes it to Sketch Zone. You see what we did there?
Yes, and Zach.
We set up Sketch Zone because we wanted to meet you and hang out.
I'm really interested in what you guys are doing now because, like, I really want to know what Jack's up to. Jack in the Box. Sorry, I'm being goofy. My bad.
So, Jack in the Box.
That should have been my website. I don't know what I was thinking. You can find me mainly on Instagram, Sketchbook Jack. But if you just Google Sketchbook Jack, I come up in a lot of places.
Sketchbook Jack?
That's me.
Right.
On Instagram. I am absolutely following you right after this.
Oh, and I'm going to screenshot it, and I'm going to put it on my wall.
No, but you don't have a website?
You know what? I do, and I just went to check on it. And
I know somebody that can develop it for you.
It's been expired, so I need to reinstate it. Oh, I'm so bad. So do not go to sketchbookjack.com. There is absolutely nothing there. You get an error message, which is
you get a
kind of how my brain is. It's how my brain is feeling right now. Anyway, so
you can always buy Jack in the Sack.
It's true. And if somebody out there buys Sketchbook Jack to spite me, I'm gonna kill you. And now that I said it, I manifested it.
I know, you got to get that done.
I just did. I contacted them. I said, I need this back, please. Anything.
It's great that you guys have this friendship and you don't intermingle your personal and professional. Like, I mean, you have this world famous web developer, and you're complaining about how you've have an expired website.
I don't want him to do my expired website.
He doesn't want to. Type in his name, he's gonna pop up.
Yeah, yeah. No, he doesn't. He doesn't want to do websites anymore.
If you type in Carlos in the Sack, Carlos in the Box,
then it'll be a picture of me. It'll be a picture of me, but in the shape of all your little fish drawings.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
See how I brought that right back around? That's why they call us pros. Hey, if you're still around, go to coconutjustice.com. Coconut Justice everywhere else. That's about it. If you are watching on YouTube, please do us a favor and subscribe. We've been doing this for a very long time. This is episode 199. So that means that we have plenty of other content for you to enjoy. Thank you to everyone that was in the chat. Deborah, Landon, Charlie, Kevin. Sorry we didn't get to your question, but this whole episode was chock full of advice. Go ahead and go ahead and just rewind all the way to the beginning. But we're going to have Travis back, and we'll be able to hit him up for some more advice. Elizabeth, Lauren, or L Cartoons, make sure you check her out. Landon, I already said him. There's a bunch of people. Jean-Luc, thank you for hanging out. Scribbler, all of you guys, thank you. Sleepy Roz, of course. She's always hanging out with us. Yeah, so if you want to catch up with all of the content, you can go to sketch.zone. We have everything there. Otherwise, just check us out here on YouTube. And
I got a question.
What's up?
How did he get Scribbler? That's such a cool name.
Yeah.
And it's not Scribbler 182 or Scribbler _. It's literally Scribbler.
It's Scribbler and the number 80.
Oh, number 80. So he's number 80?
Yeah.
Such a cool name.
Yeah.
I was like, if he's the first Scribbler, I'm like, that's dope.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a dope name. Like whoever came up with Scribbler first, not the Scribbler 80 is bad.
Should we see? Let's go to Instagram. Hang on. I'm gonna.
It is the most memorable. Like I have to say, I'm sorry. Like you counting off all these names, all of a sudden Scribbler. I'm like, Scribbler. How cool is that?
Instagram.com/Scribbler has 0 posts, 0 followers, 0
somebody
following.
Who just took the name. They just took the name.
They just
bastards.
I hate that. That's the worst.
The worst.
So you're stuck with Scribbler 80, but that's okay. I gotta see Scribbler's work too. You said.
Oh, yeah. Scribbler 80. You're going to be pretty impressed with that kid. He is.
I'm gonna get excited.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? He like I said earlier, he lives in Chicago, and we grew up kind of in the same neighborhood, but we just never met each other until I harassed him on Instagram. So yeah, I think that's it, guys. If you go to sketch.zone, you'll see the links to all of our social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. And you see how if you can come and hang out, we try to be here every Thursday. The reason why we're doing a show Saturday morning California time or Pacific Standard Time is 11 a.m. The reason we're doing that is because Benjamin lives in France. So we try to accommodate people depending on where they are on the planet. So that's why. But if you can come, as a matter of fact, just do this. Subscribe and then hit the little bell, and every time we go to do anything, you're gonna get alerted. So do that, and then yeah, just join us live. And you see, we try to get you guys involved too. You guys are like our 1, 2, 3, 4th host. Had to count that out. I had to use my fingers and everything. So yeah, sketch.zone. And then we're also on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, iTunes, and of course, Spotify. All right, guys, that's it for us for kind of this week. We'll be back at it on Saturday. We're going to try to get Travis back, and we're going to be talking to the Calipeg.
Ish Calipeg.
You know what? Before I go, because everyone is asking about...
It is midnight. It's that time.
Everyone is asking about Benjamin. I'm going to drop the link, because right when I end this, the chat has probably like another 30 seconds or something. So there, I dropped it in there. Go check out Benjamin's channel. He's fantastic, not just because of Calipeg, but the dude is like a for real deal artist, animator type. So yeah, go check him out too. And we're going to be talking to him on Saturday. So
Okay.
everyone, thank you again. Have a very wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Please wash your hands, stay safe. Let your families know that we're thinking about them, and we'll see you guys on Saturday. Have a good week.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
See ya. Thank you.